The phantom race, elder's astonishment. Show yourself. Jiang Chengxuan snorted. The next moment, his body surged with intensely boiling blood. Instantly, his stature skyrocketed. 50 feet, 80 feet, up to 120 feet tall, Jiang Chengxuan's figure had grown to a colossal size in the blink of an eye. Kai kai kai. Simultaneously, pure yang true fire began to rise from his body, causing the surrounding void to emit sounds akin to boiling water under the scorch of the pure yang true fire. Arg! At that moment, the shadows swirling around him suddenly twisted and then converged into a humanoid form. This being wore a black high hat, and its eyes shone with a sinister green glow. Its face was marked with twisted black runes, standing as if it were the epicenter of all darkness, seemingly absorbing all surrounding light. Indeed, this was a member of the phantom race. Jiang Chengxuan's gaze sharpened. He had long heard that the phantom race was naturally accompanied by darkness, distinct from the so-called ghost races. This race inherently possessed an extraordinary ability, which was the rule of darkness. Despite only wielding the darkness rule in its basic form, the phantom race was still stronger than most cultivators at the same level. This was because most cultivators at soul formation only mastered the basic spatial rule, with no grasp on other, more profound rules, let alone the origin rule. Buzz! In an instant, a massive amount of black mist surged up from the body of the phantom cultivator. Kai kai kai. As this black mist collided with the pure yang true fire emanating from Jiang Chengxuan, it emitted sizzling sounds, showing signs of potentially suppressing the pure yang true fire. This made Jiang Chengxuan's gaze slightly concentrate. This was the first time he had seen someone utilize the power of darkness to overpower pure yang true fire. Of course, this might be related to the power and grade of his pure yang true fire not being high enough. Nonetheless, the fact that his pure yang true fire could be suppressed indicated that the opponent must be utilizing the power of the darkness rule. Roar! Suddenly, behind Jiang Chengxuan, the manifestation of a dragon and an elephant appeared. Following this, a figure exuding regal aura emerged behind him. Demon suppressing fist technique. This punch, although primarily effective against demonic cultivators, also possessed a significant restraining effect against all forms of dark and evil spirits. With the power of the dragon and elephant surging through him, even a phantom cultivator wielding the darkness rule could not hope to gain any advantage. Boom! A fist shadow, hundreds of feet in diameter, blasted through the sky directly into the engulfing black mist. An explosion of terrifying energy ensued. The golden fist relentlessly struck the pervasive black mist, which seemed to evaporate endlessly, only to be replenished just as quickly. For a moment, the two sides appeared to be in a stalemate. Whoosh! At that moment, a completely black flying sword emerged from the endless darkness, silently slicing towards Jiang Chengxuan at high speed. Clang! However, just as the black flying sword was about to hit the back of Jiang Chengxuan's head, his golden void sword flew out to meet it. The collision in midair triggered a dense explosion of sword chi. Kai kai kai. In an instant, the walls and ground were marked with numerous clear sword cuts. The environment, transformed by the mystic sky cave and known for its durability, was not supposed to be easily affected by ordinary attacks. However, at this moment, traces of battle appeared on the walls and ground. It could be seen how intense the battle between the two was. How terrifying was the combat strength they erupted with. Enough of this. Jiang Chengxuan, after evaluating the frequency and power of his opponent's attacks and having deployed most of his techniques, suddenly produced two balls of flame in his palm, one gold and one white. Yin and Yang divine flame. Boom! In an instant, the endless black mist was instantly incinerated. Waves of fire, like predators chasing their prey, split and evaporated more of the black mist. The phantom cultivator's eyes widened in disbelief. How is that possible? Before he could fully react, he felt an endless flame boiling inside him. In an instant, boundless flames burst forth from countless pores in his body. In just the blink of an eye, the phantom cultivator was incinerated into nothingness by the flames that had erupted within him. And this was Jiang Chengxuan's fire divine power, chaotic flames. These flames could attack from all angles, either exploding violently or infiltrating surreptitiously, even penetrating every nook and cranny to burn one's body to ashes unknowingly. It worked. Outside, as the onlookers saw Jiang Chengxuan successfully pass the third level, joy appeared on everyone's faces. It's truly unexpected that martial nephew Jiang possesses such strength shortly after ascending. If he continues to cultivate for some time and is provided with ample resources, he could become invincible within the soul formation realm. Yun Yizhen couldn't help but express his admiration. Hearing his words, both Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping also smiled. However, after some time, they still did not see Jiang Chengxuan come out. This made Qin Shenwu, Zhu Ping, and the others somewhat puzzled. What's going on? He's already past the third level, why hasn't martial nephew Jiang come out? Wait, look! Everyone turned their heads, their eyes narrowing in focus. This kid, Qin Shenwu couldn't help but speak out. Is he continuing to challenge further levels? He's also past the fourth level. At this, everyone present was somewhat shocked. If Jiang Chengxuan passing through the third level of the Mystic Sky Cave was a cause for joy and an indicator of his formidable strength, his passing through the fourth level was beyond belief. One had to know that the gap between the third and fourth levels of the Mystic Sky Cave was enormous. While a cultivator who passed the third level could be considered strong among those in soul formation, one who passed the fourth level could almost be declared invincible. Out of 100 peak soul formation cultivators, not one would be able to pass the fourth level of the Mystic Sky Cave. Yet now Jiang Chengxuan had. Wait, look! Suddenly, Yun Yizhen's pupils contracted, and he stared intently at the Mystic Sky Cave, urging Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping to pay attention. Instant kill, leaving the Mystic Sky Cave. Huh? Hearing Yun Yizhen's remark, Qin Shenwu, Zhu Ping, and even Shen Ruyan turned their heads to look. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had already started the challenge for the fifth level of the Mystic Sky Cave. At this moment, Qin Shenwu, Zhu Ping, and Yun Yizhen exchanged glances, all seeing a hint of disbelief in each other's eyes. Inside the Mystic Sky Cave, the fifth level, Jiang Chengxuan found himself in a vast cavern, facing a towering mountain. He was momentarily taken aback. Could it be that his opponent on the fifth level was this huge mountain in front of him? Boom! Just as the thought crossed his mind, the mountain suddenly moved. A gigantic stone hand, large enough to cover the sky, thunderously crashed down towards Jiang Chengxuan. Huh? At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan instantly understood. This was not a mountain, but a mountain demon, a mountain transformed into a demon. Boom! In the next moment, an endless glow of green light burst forth. The Eastern Green Dragon flag was summoned by Jiang Chengxuan. There was a loud bang. The green light shield formed by the Eastern Green Dragon flag momentarily dimmed before returning to normal. What? Simultaneously, a voice of surprise echoed from within the mountain. Rumble! As its massive body shifted, the mountain gradually revealed limbs, a head, and a torso, clearly showing the mountain demon's form. One could clearly see that this mountain demon was nearly 100,000 feet tall. It cast a huge shadow as it stood there. The terrifying presence it exuded made the idea of resistance seem futile. Among all demons, mountain demons were definitely among the strongest, especially in terms of strength and defense. This was Jiang Chengxuan's first encounter with a mountain demon. In the 9 Essences cultivation world, he had mostly encountered beast demons or insect demons, or even aquatic demons, and those with divine bloodlines. He had never seen a mountain demon like this before. Let me see how strong you really are, mountain demon. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan fully unleashed his body tempering technique, emanating a formidable aura reminiscent of a wild beast. Boom! No flashy moves, just brute force. Jiang Chengxuan charged forward without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. In just a moment, he and the mountain demon exchanged thousands of blows back and forth. Each collision was a clash of absolute power, creating continuous booming sounds in midair. The terrifying shockwave shattered the surrounding rock walls into debris and dust. The mountain demon became increasingly alarmed as the battle progressed. Honestly, it had never encountered a cultivator whose strength could match its own, let alone engage in such an evenly matched battle as now. Is this guy really just a human cultivator? Boom! Finally, when the two figures separated again, the mountain demon's body was covered in numerous cracks. Though these cracks were not particularly noticeable on its massive body, they were there nonetheless. Jiang Chengxuan had realized that defeating it with brute force alone might be challenging. So he decided to. At that moment, 5 colored lights, green, red, yellow, white, blue, suddenly burst forth from behind him and swept across the mountain demon before it could react. Buzz. At first, the mountain demon was somewhat puzzled as to why it was not hurt. But soon it felt a great shock. It could clearly sense that its strength, spirit, and even defense had suddenly dropped by 30% from their original levels. What kind of divine power could cause such bizarre effects? At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's fingertips gathered a glimmer of green light, which he then pointed directly at the mountain demon. Buzz. Suddenly, a terrifying force suddenly landed on the mountain demon. It could distinctly feel its life being rapidly drained away. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before it would be completely devoid of life. This was Jiang Chengxuan's newly comprehended wood elemental divine power after ascending, called withering, a divine power capable of stripping away the life force of others. Die! Jiang Chengxuan let out a fierce shout and swung out his deep earth halberd. Rumble! It was as if the sky itself was being cleaved apart. The formidable force caused the mountain demon's eyes to contract repeatedly. It roared in anger, and its massive body radiated a yellow light as its huge palms struck towards the sky. Boom, boom, boom. A series of intense collisions echoed once more. However, this time, due to the weakening effect imposed by Jiang Chengxuan, the mountain demon's strength and defense significantly decreased. In no time at all, its massive body was forced into a retreat by Jiang Chengxuan's relentless attacks. Caught off guard, it was pierced through the head by the deep earth halberd. Boom! The mountain demon's massive head exploded suddenly, and with that, its entire body began to crumble. Jiang Chengxuan quickly turned to look around, only to see his surroundings rapidly changing. In the blink of an eye, he found himself in a vast martial training field instead of the cavern. Huh? Am I already on the 6th level? Curiosity filled Jiang Chengxuan's mind, wondering what kind of opponent he would face on this 6th level. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he felt a breeze by his ear. Before he could react, he sensed an invisible barrier in front of him blocking an attack. Huh? Was I just instantly defeated? Jiang Chengxuan was somewhat astonished. He hadn't even seen who his opponent was before being defeated instantly. Was this some kind of joke? Is the gap between the 5th and 6th levels really that vast? However, before he could even catch a glimpse of the opponent who had defeated him instantly, he felt the world spin around him. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself back outside the mystic sky cave. Yet no one outside the cave spoke first. Whether it was his Shifu Qin Shenwu, the sect master Zhu Ping, or Shen Ruyan's Shifu Yun Yizhen, all of them looked at him with a somewhat incredulous gaze. Feeling somewhat uneasy under their gazes, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but turn to look at Shen Ruyan, who gave him a smile filled with amusement. It was only after a short pause that sect master Zhu Ping finally broke the silence, addressing Jiang Chengxuan. Martial nephew Jiang, did you just make it all the way to the 6th level? 3 subrealms of void returning realm. Huh? Jiang Chengxuan's reaction was very fast. When he heard this, he roughly guessed their thoughts and couldn't help but nod. Sect master, I did make it to the 6th level just now. At this point, a hint of doubt appeared on his face. He turned to look at his Shifu and sect master Zhu Ping. Shifu, may I ask what kind of opponents are on the 6th level of the Mystic Sky Cave? Why was I instantly killed before I could even see the other party's appearance? Defeated instantly. The group exchanged glances, with Qin Shenwu revealing a smile. He explained, being defeated instantly on the 6th level, given your current strength, is quite normal. Do you know who the opponent on the 6th level is? Please enlighten me, Jiang Chengxuan requested. Shen Ruyan, who was also curious, looked towards Qin Shenwu. Because according to the agreement, she was also going to challenge the Mystic Sky Cave later. Even with her husband's strength, he was instantly defeated on the 6th level. In that case, even if she reached the 6th level, the outcome would probably be the same. However, before that, it was good to hear who the opponent on the 6th level was. Qin Shenwu revealed, the opponent on the 6th level of the Mystic Sky Cave is a void-returning cultivator at Dharma Form Realm. And not just any ordinary Dharma Form Realm cultivator. Do you understand what I'm saying? A Dharma Form Realm cultivator, and not an ordinary one. Upon hearing Qin Shenwu's answer, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were suddenly enlightened. After ascending to this day, they had come to understand that the entire void returning realm was divided into three sub-realms: Dharma form, celestial radiance, and profound mystery. The Dharma form realm involved condensing a true Dharma form, unlike the illusory Dharma form conjured during soul formation. Such Dharma form possessed incredible power with every movement. Most of the void returning divine lords in the current celestial floodgate realm were in this realm. The celestial radiance realm allowed a cultivator's Dharma form to merge into the heavens and earth, capable of dividing into hundreds or uniting into one, with each incarnation bearing the primordial spirit of the original self. Even if the original self was killed, as long as one incarnation survived, rebirth was possible. Void-returning divine lords at this realm were considered the true powerhouses among void-returning divine lords, representing the upper echelons of power in super sects and overlord sects. Because cultivators at this realm were nearly impossible to kill unless they were also referred to as undying cultivators. The final realm, the profound mystery, signified a thorough understanding of the mysteries of heaven and earth, forming one's own domain of heaven and earth. Within this domain, those below the profound mystery realm would find themselves unable to resist, becoming like fish on the chopping board. It was unexpected that the opponent on the 6th level of Mystic Sky Cave turned out to be a void-returning divine lord. If it were just an ordinary void-returning divine lord, Jiang Chengxuan might have been able to exchange a few blows. However, the Mystic Sky Cave, as a treasure that tested the strength of cultivators, would not conjure an ordinary void-returning divine lord. Even if it was just the Dharma form within the void-returning realm, it would still be the strongest existence at that level. After some time, Shen Ruyan, like Jiang Chengxuan before her, entered the Mystic Sky Cave. Given Jiang Chengxuan's performance, Yun Yizhen, Zhu Ping, and Qin Shenwu had high expectations for Shen Ruyan's subsequent performance. Indeed, Shen Ruyan did not disappoint them. In just a moment, she breezed through 3 levels. After a short while, she also surpassed the 4th level of the Mystic Sky Cave. By the time she entered the 5th level, Yun Yizhen, along with Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping, were genuinely surprised and pleased by the couple's strength. Because being able to surpass the 3rd level already made one stronger than most cultivators of the same realm from super and overlord sects. Surpassing the 4th, and even the 5th level would make one invincible within their realm. Buzz. As everyone was quietly contemplating these matters, Shen Ruyan had already successfully passed the 5th level and reached the 6th. However, just like Jiang Chengxuan earlier, after she surpassed the 5th level and entered the 6th, she was also instantly defeated by the void-returning cultivator waiting there. Immediately, Jiang Chengxuan stepped forward to inquire about the situation. Through their conversation, the couple realized that the opponents they faced upon entering the Mystic Sky Cave were not the same. And this was very normal. Unless preset, the opponent each person faced in the Mystic Sky Cave was almost never identical. How about it, sending them to participate in the Thousand Rivers secret? Realm should pose no problem, right? Yun Yizhen asked Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping with a smile. Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping exchanged a glance and quickly nodded. Indeed, there should be no issue, said Qin Shenwu. Turning to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he said, "You both are aware of the situation in the Thousand Rivers secret realm. What do you think? Would you be willing to lead our sex teams into the Thousand Rivers secret realm?" Hearing this question again, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not hesitate and nodded. "Shifu, I'm willing." "Good." Qin Shenwu nodded in satisfaction at their willingness. Subsequently, Yun Yizhen discussed some details with Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping. After the discussion, he bid farewell to them. Despite knowing that the couple's time together might not be long this time, they hadn't expected to part so soon. Despite feeling reluctant, they understood that in the upcoming century, both had a significant journey to take in their cultivation. So, without being sentimental, after bidding each other farewell, Yun Yizhen took Shen Ruyan with him and left the Heoran sect. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan, after seeking permission from his Shifu and the sect master martial uncle, headed directly to the Mount of 5 Elements Divine Reincarnation. This mountain was a colossal one abundant with 5 elements. For those cultivating the way of the 5 elements, Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to a year of cultivation in the outside world. At the moment, Jiang Chengxuan had the opportunity to cultivate here 10 times, equating to 10 months of time. As soon as he set foot on this divine mountain, Jiang Chengxuan immediately felt the dharmic power within his body becoming incredibly active. Even the 5-element spirit technique he was cultivating started to operate on its own under the influence of this environment. Not wanting to waste this rare opportunity, Jiang Chengxuan found a relatively suitable area for his current level of cultivation and sat down in meditation. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, the dharmic power within his body surged like a raging river, tumultuously flowing through his meridians. Senior Sister Xianxia. 1. In just a few days, Jiang Chengxuan felt a significant improvement in his understanding of the 5 elements. He finally started to grasp the essence of a water elemental divine power that had eluded him for so long. His cultivation progressed rapidly, and by the end of a month on the mountain, his cultivation had astonishingly reached the 8th level of soul formation. Half a year later, his cultivation broke through once again, reaching the 9th level of soul formation. Moreover, the water elemental divine power he had been struggling to comprehend was fully mastered. Time flies. The water elemental divine power that Jiang Chengxuan had comprehended this time was actually related to time. Jiang Chengxuan named this divine power years, which was related to the aspect of time. After this breakthrough, Jiang Chengxuan chose not to leave the mountain immediately but continued his cultivation, focusing this time on his body. With the body tempering cultivation resources provided by Qin Shenwu, he was confident in advancing his physical body to the peak of level 6 without even needing to use the 10,000 tribulations thunder liquid given by Shen Ruyan's master, Yun Yizhen. He planned to save this body cultivation treasure for breaking through to level 6. Buzz, buzz, buzz. On a hillside where Jiang Chengxuan was cultivating, the void around him buzzed continuously. Waves of qi and blood surged from him like a tsunami, indicating the intensity of his cultivation. At this moment, nearly 4 months had passed since he started focusing on tempering his body, and he had finally achieved a breakthrough to the peak of level 6. Jiang Chengxuan could feel his own strength immensely. It was not an exaggeration to say that if the current him were to face the previous him, he could easily defeat the previous him. He now had enough confidence that if he were to return to the 6th level of Mystic Sky Cave, he wouldn't be instantly defeated without even seeing his opponent. He believed he could at least put up a fight or exchange a few blows. Realizing his time on the Mount of 5 Elements divine reincarnation was nearly over, Jiang Chengxuan decided it was time to leave. As Jiang Chengxuan stood up and stretched, a series of crackling sounds echoed, causing the leaves around him to rustle and fall. It was undeniable that Mount of 5 Elements divine reincarnation was a great help to his cultivation. However, he was aware that this was largely because it was his first time entering the mountain, which naturally offered significant assistance. After that, as he entered more and more times, its help to him would slowly weaken. This didn't mean that this was all that the Mount of 5 Elements divine reincarnation could do. It was because the area that Jiang Chengxuan could access at the moment could only do so much. The more he came, the more enlightenment he gained. The help this area provided him would naturally be less effective. If he wanted to go to a higher and deeper area, it would not be once every 10 years, but once every 100 years or even 1,000 years. Or he could use the corresponding contribution point to exchange for such chances. Jiang Chengxuan had roughly calculated that the area he was currently in would probably lose its effect after 2 or 3 more visits. Next, he had to go to the area that he could only enter once every 100 years to cultivate. Only then would it be of great help to him. Never mind. I'll use what is helpful to me first. When these places are really useless to me, I'll accumulate contribution points to exchange for areas that can only be accessed once every 100 years. As he thought about this, Jiang Chengxuan had already left Mount of 5 Elements divine reincarnation and headed towards the Shenwu Peak where his Shifu Qin Shenwu resided. Qin Shenwu had instructed him to visit after leaving the mountain before returning to his own cloud mist peak. Whoosh! The streak of light descended. Jiang Chengxuan's figure appeared on the Shenwu Peak. As soon as he arrived at Shenwu Peak, Jiang Chengxuan saw a stranger. It It was a beautiful woman in a tight outfit. She was very tall and had shoulder-length black hair. Perhaps sensing Jiang Chengxuan's gaze, the beautiful woman immediately turned to look at him. When their gazes met, Jiang Chengxuan felt his head buzz. In an instant, countless illusions seemed to appear. This made his heart tremble. Without another word, the vast heaven-divine Jade in the depths of his sea of consciousness shook slightly. In the next moment, all the illusions disappeared. Huh? At the same time, the beautiful woman let out a surprised sound. Then she smiled and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. If I'm not wrong, you're the new junior brother that Shifu mentioned, right? Just as Shifu said, your primordial spirit is very strong. You escaped from my dream so quickly. Oh yes, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Xianxia. I'm your senior sister. I just came back from outside today. Her senior sister, Xianxia. Hearing this name, Jiang Chengxuan's heart immediately skipped a beat. He had long heard of this senior sister, whom he had never met. He did not expect to meet her here today. Without a word, he immediately smiled and cupped his fists. It is truly an honor to meet senior sister in person. I have always heard that senior sister is the strongest among our Shenwu Peak lineage. Seeing you today, I can see that your reputation is well-deserved. Jiang Chengxuan was well aware that Xianxiao's illusion just now wasn't meant with any ill will, but was simply a subconscious action on her part. After all, from what he knew, his senior sister cultivated the 5 elements illusion technique. Even if she did nothing, her mere presence was an illusion. Ordinary people would fall into a dream state within moments of encountering her. Even cultivators of the same level, if they harbored any ill intentions, might be ensnared by her illusions. This was why Jiang Chengxuan didn't take offense. In other cases, such an action upon first meeting, regardless of the intent, would naturally be annoying. However, Xianxiao's case was different. The illusions she carried weren't due to her subjective will. Anyone seeing her, whose cultivation was below hers or who couldn't resist her type of illusion, would more or less be affected by it. So, under normal circumstances, Xianxiao seldom appeared in crowded places, but if she did appear, it was certain that something was happening. How is it? What do you think of your senior sister's illusory dream? Just then, a voice filled with a hint of amusement suddenly appeared in their ears. Hearing this voice, both Jiang Chengxuan and Xianxiao were startled and immediately turned around and bowed in the direction of the voice. Greetings, Shifu. 5 elements extermination, divine light. The person who arrived was Qin Shenwu. He smiled at the two, nodding in approval. Truly, neither of you has disappointed me, just as I expected from my chosen disciples. It was clear from Qin Shenwu's discerning eyes that he noticed the changes in Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation level right away. It seems that the mount of 5 elements divine reincarnation has been very effective for you. This is all thanks to Shifu's help. Jiang Chengxuan hurriedly replied humbly. Qin Shenwu waved his hand. All right. I know mount of 5 elements divine reincarnation better than you. How much he could gain inside depends entirely on his own ability. Anyway, did you come to see me for something today? Shifu. Jiang Chengxuan hurriedly cupped his fists. I came today to inform you that I plan to return to Cloud Mist Peak to focus on cultivation. Back to your Cloud Mist Peak. Qin Shenwu nodded his head. That's good. In 100 years, the 1,000 River Secret Realm will open. Before that, it's wise to solidify your cultivation and accumulate a foundation for breaking through to void returning. Go ahead. Yes. Jiang Chengxuan immediately accepted the command. He then nodded towards Xianxiao before flying away from the Shenwu. Peak on a stream of light. What do you think of your junior brother? Qin Shenwu asked Xianxiao with a smile once Jiang Chengxuan had left. Let me tell you, when he and his Dao companion entered the Mystic Sky Cave that day, both of them reached the 6th level. Oh, the 6th level of the Mystic Sky Cave. Hearing this, Xianxiao was surprised. She knew very well what it meant for Jiang Chengxuan to reach the 6th level of the Mystic Sky Cave with his cultivation. Indeed, and at that time, he wasn't even at his current level of cultivation. Not at his current level of cultivation. Xianxiao was even more astonished. As they continued to discuss Jiang Chengxuan had already returned to his Cloud Mist Peak. As soon as he returned to Cloud Mist Peak, Elk Little White called out happily and came to his side. Jiang Chengxuan immediately smiled and reached out to touch its head. Then he took out a spiritual fruit from his body and brought it to its mouth. Little White sniffed and took a bite of the spiritual fruit that Jiang Chengxuan handed over. "Come on, accompany me to my cave abode," he said, and together with Little White, he headed towards his cave abode on the peak. A few days later, Jiang Chengxuan officially began to cultivate in seclusion. This time, his main goal was to use the 5 different elements as the foundation to comprehend an ultimate divine power of the 5 elements. 5 elements extermination, divine light. This was also a gift that Qin Shenwu had imparted to him. If he could grasp the 5 elements extermination, divine light within this century, it would significantly boost his strength. Even if he encountered a void returning divine lord, he would at least have the capability to contend with them. However, comprehending the 5 elements extermination divine light was not an easy task. With Jiang Chengxuan's current foundation, sufficient time was crucial for understanding such a powerful divine power. Fortunately, he had treasures like the enlightenment pill that could assist in his cultivation, potentially enabling him to enter a state of enlightenment and achieve success in one fell swoop. At the same time, in a hall in the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, the current sect master of the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, Hua Chenghai, looked at his disciples and said in a deep voice, "When you go to the Thousand River Secret Realm this time, apart from helping our sect fight for precious treasures, I have another very important mission for you. Sect Master, please instruct us." The 5 Elements Heavenly Sect's disciples bowed and cupped their fists. "Good." Hua Chenghai nodded. Then a sharp glint flashed across his eyes as he said coldly, "That's to deal with a person called Jiang Chengxuan." Jiang Chengxuan. The group of disciples could not help but look puzzled. They had obviously never heard of Jiang Chengxuan, a cultivator who had just ascended. "That's right." Hua Chenghai nodded again, but the fierceness on his face increased a little. He said indifferently, "This person is a cultivator who ascended from the lower realm. Not only did he reject our 5 Elements Heavenly Sect's recruitment of him back then, but he also joined the Heoran sect. The most hateful thing is that this person has directly entered Qin Shenwu's sect and became his direct disciple. You should all know who that Qin Shenwu is. That day, Mount of 5 Elements Divine Reincarnation was taken away by this person. Since you guys will enter the Thousand River Secret Realm this time, I believe that Jiang Chengxuan's chances of entering it will definitely be very high. So, I need you to kill that man when you see him. Kill him at all costs. I want to see how Qin Shenwu will react when his disciple dies in the Thousand River Secret Realm." "Yes, Sect Master." Upon hearing Hua Chenghai's command, all the disciples vocally accepted the order. They were astonished that someone dared to decline the invitation from their 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, choosing instead to join the Heoran sect and become a disciple of Qin Shenwu. This was seen as a direct insult to their sect, and they were determined not to let such an individual off easily, even without Hua Chenghai's explicit instructions. Time flew by, and 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. Inside Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation cave abode, 5 different colors and lights, each carrying a distinct aura of destruction, began to ascend around him. These diverse lights gradually merged into a single beam of multicolored light filled with a destructive aura. This was the 5 Elements Extermination Divine Light, a divine power Jiang Chengxuan had comprehended after nearly a century of diligent cultivation. Once unleashed, this divine light could obliterate anything in its path at a fundamental level, leaving not even a trace behind. Everything would be destroyed from the particle level and eventually return to the purest nothingness. It was truly a top-notch offensive divine power. Buzz. As Jiang Chengxuan absorbed the 5 Elements Extermination divine light back into himself, he slowly opened his eyes with a smile of satisfaction. He had finally succeeded. However, he was slightly puzzled when he noticed a message from his Shifu on his communication Jade. After reading the message, he quickly got up. "Shifu wants me to go straight to the mission hall. It seems that it's related to the Thousand River Secret Realm." At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate. After putting away the items, he left the cave abode. After greeting Elk Little White, who was outside, he turned into a beam of light and flew towards the mission hall. Arriving at the Thousand River Secret Realm, Dao Integration Battle. Mission Hall. At this moment, there were already 7 to 8 Haoran sect cultivators gathered. Each of their cultivation level was at the very least in the late stage of soul formation. Among them, 3 had reached the peak of soul formation. They were engaged in quiet conversation as they waited for something. Just then, a figure suddenly entered from outside. Upon seeing this figure, the eyes of several people present lit up. A man and a woman in particular went forward to greet him with a smile. "Senior brother Jiang." "Good." It was Jiang Chengxuan. At this moment, he looked at the 2 who had come forward to greet him, and smile also appeared on his face. Junior brother Feng, junior sister Xiao. These 2 were the direct disciples of Zhu Ping, the master of the Haoran sect. Their cultivation had both reached the peak of soul formation. After completing the challenge in the mystic sky cave, Zhu Ping had specifically asked them to come and meet with him and Shen Ruyan. The expressions of some others present who did not know Jiang Chengxuan were slightly surprised. They didn't understand why Feng Nianchuan and Xiao Zume, with their statuses, would take the initiative to greet this newcomer. Buzz. However, at this moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the mission hall. They were the current Haoran sect master, Zhu Ping, and Jiang Chengxuan's Shifu, Qin Shenwu. "Greetings, ancestors." At this moment, Zhu Ping and Qin Shenwu scanned the crowd. Pausing slightly on Jiang Chengxuan, Feng Nianchuan, and Xiao Zume, then nodded and spoke. "You have all been summoned here, and you should be clear about the reason. It is to head to the Thousand River Secret Realm. As your elders, I will ask you one last time, is there anyone who wishes to withdraw?" After a few moments passed, no one spoke up. Zhu Ping and Qin Shenwu nodded, evidently pleased. Then Sect Master Zhu Ping said, "Since no one has chosen to withdraw, I must make clear to you all about the journey to the Thousand River Secret Realm. You must have heard about the dangers of the Thousand River Secret Realm before this. I will not dwell on that now. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that during this journey to the Thousand River Secret Realm, remember to assist each other. And at critical moments, you need to follow the commands of the team leader. This is the only request from Elder Qin and me. As for who will be the leader of your expedition this rhyme." At this point, Zhu Ping's gaze directly turned to Jiang Chengxuan, who was present. "It will be Chengxuan who takes on this role." Hearing Zhu Ping's words, Feng Nianchuan and Xiao Zume had no issues with it. But the rest of the people present all looked at Jiang Chengxuan in astonishment. Especially another cultivator who had reached the peak of soul formation. This person was named Wei Yelong. He was somewhat unable to understand why Sect Master Zhu Ping would appoint Jiang Chengxuan as the leader of their group. Logically, he thought that Zhu Ping would arrange one of his direct disciples as the leader. Perhaps sensing the doubts in everyone's minds, Zhu Ping couldn't help but chuckle and said, "Do you all know how many levels of the mystic sky cave Chengxuan has passed before?" Without waiting for everyone to answer, Zhu Ping directly replied, 100 years ago, Chengxuan passed through 5 levels of the mystic sky cave in one go and reached the 6th level. What? He reached the 6th level of the mystic sky cave? Hearing Zhu Ping's words, everyone present except for Feng Nianchuan and Xiao Zume were greatly surprised. They could hardly imagine how strong one had to be to pass through the 5th level of the mystic sky cave. One had to know that the strongest among them had only passed the 4th level. It was no wonder that Sect Master Zhu Ping would let this person be their leader. Alright, if there's nothing else, let's set off now. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan and the others left the mission hall under the lead of Zhu Ping and Qin Shenwu. Qin Shenwu casually threw out a flying boat. In the blink of an eye, the flying ship had expanded to tens of thousands of feet in size. After everyone entered, the flying boat immediately turned into a shadow and quickly disappeared from the Haoran sect's mountain gate. The Thousand River Secret Realm they were heading to this time was an extremely remote area in the state of Yu. It was countless miles away from their Haoran sect. However, for such a long distance, Jiang Chengxuan and the others only took about 3 days to successfully arrive on Qin Shenwu's flying ship. According to Jiang Chengxuan's observation, during this process, Qin Shenwu's flying ship had clearly undergone several spatial jumps. Even though with his current cultivation, there was no way he could manipulate the space of the celestial floodgate realm. However, at his Shifu's level of cultivation, there should be no problem. Buzz. Accompanied by a burst of light, Jiang Chengxuan and the others had already appeared in front of a huge valley. There were already many people gathered here. Jiang Chengxuan glanced around and saw many soul formation and void returning cultivators. Among them, there were actually a few Dao integration holy lords like his, Shifu and Zhu Ping. However, he did not see his Dao companion, Shen Ruyan, among the crowd. She probably hadn't arrived yet. Boom! However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt a cold and murderous gaze land on him. His body suddenly felt as if it was as cold as a harsh winter. Even his thoughts began to go blank. This immediately filled his heart with terrors. Who exactly was it? There was actually such a terrifying power. Just a gaze was enough to make him lose the ability to think. HMPH. However, at this moment, a cold scoff suddenly sounded beside his ear. Qin Shenwu had an unfriendly look on his face. He stared at a middle-aged cultivator in front of him and suddenly said coldly, "Bai Ziliang, you're the sect master of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect and a Dao Integration Holy Lord. How dare you lay your hands on a junior? Do you even have a sense of shame? Since you're so shameless, don't blame me for being rude." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Shenwu actually attacked directly. His entire body instantly turned into a five-colored light. Boom! The void was pierced through. As the sect leader of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, Bai Ziliang was actually unable to react in time. His entire body was immediately sent flying horizontally. In an instant, he shattered a large area of the void, revealing the deep black hole inside. Qin Shenwu, you're courting death. Bai Ziliang stepped out from the endless void. His eyes were filled with endless anger. Green, red, yellow, white, and blue lights kept circulating on his body. There was a swish. A huge sword with 5 elements suddenly fell from the sky and slashed straight at Qin Shenwu. Crushed into nothingness. Puff! Facing the descending 5-colored giant sword from Bai Ziliang, a smirk flashed across Qin Shenwu's lips. He reached out, grabbed, and with a squeeze he shouted, "Break!" In an instant, an invisible force descended upon the falling 5-colored giant. Sword! Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, the 5-colored giant sword trembled violently. The 5 elements on it began to flow uncontrollably in a reverse direction. Finally, with a loud boom, the 5-colored giant sword exploded into a burst of 5-colored radiance and dissipated in midair. But that was not the end. Qin Shenwu reached out again and made another squeezing motion. Buzz! In the void, a 5-colored ring suddenly appeared. The ring spun rapidly and then disappeared from everyone's divine sense. Bai Ziliang, who was closely watching Qin Shenwu, suddenly changed his expression. Not good. But before he could react, a 5-colored ring appeared both above his head and below his feet. The ring spun wildly like 2 mills. In just an instant, Bai Ziliang's body was ground into dust. A look of shock appeared on everyone's faces. The sect master of the mighty 5 Elements Heavenly Sect just died like that. Jiang Chengxuan was also somewhat stunned. Was his Shifu perhaps a bit too formidable? Buzz! However, at this moment the void shook. Following that, Bai Ziliang, who had just been ground into dust by the 5-colored rings, reappeared unharmed. Only his complexion was somewhat pale. Many people couldn't help but gasp. Even Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but be astonished. He had felt it very clearly just now. The sect master of the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, Bai Ziliang, had clearly been crushed into dust by his master, Qin Shenwu. Under such circumstances, even if he possessed the ability to regenerate from a drop of blood, he would definitely be dead without a doubt. However, Bai Ziliang was actually able to come back to life. This method and ability was truly an eye-opener. There's nothing strange about it. Cultivators, upon reaching Dao integration, merge their physical bodies, primordial spirit, and the rules into one. Even if they are reduced to nothingness, they can instantly come back to life. Unless you could utterly erase them at the level of rules, it was not easy to kill a Dao integration Holy Lord. Haven't you noticed that the other Dao integration Holy Lord here didn't react much to what just happened? Don't act so surprised in the future. I don't care about others, but my disciples must possess such knowledge and experience. Do you understand? These words suddenly reached Jiang Chengxuan's ears through a voice transmission. Jiang Chengxuan was immediately invigorated and turned his head towards the direction of Qin Shenwu, nodding solemnly and replied via voice transmission. I will heed Shifu's teachings carefully. After a pause, he continued. Forgive my frankness, Shifu. Although what you said just now makes sense, I still feel that Bai Ziliang is not worthy to be compared with you. Even if he has the undying body of the Tao Integration Holy Lord, I believe that if you truly wish, you definitely have the ability to slay him. The reason for not doing so is merely not wanting to dirty your own hands. Qin Shenwu was clearly very pleased with Jiang Chengxuan's words, nodding lightly in response. Indeed, this was the disciple he valued most. His foresight and awareness were not something the other two disciples could compare to. Buzz. Just as the Five Elements Heavenly Sect was about to confront Qin Shenwu and his group, a wave of fluctuation suddenly came from the void not far away. Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw a flying boat appearing in that part of the void. It's the people from Thunderclap Valley. Some sharp-eyed individuals immediately recognized the Thunderclap Valley emblem on the flying boat. The group of Five Elements Heavenly Sect cultivators, who were about to kick up trouble, instantly looked incredibly displeased. Everyone knew that the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley were very close, almost like two peas in a pod. If they did not know what was good for them at this moment, the cultivators from Thunderclap would definitely point their spears at them. Unlike the reaction of the Five Elements Heavenly Sect, the people from Haoran sect all greeted the Thunderclap Valley flying boat with a fist salute from afar. Qin Shenwu and Zhu Ping smiled and greeted the two cultivators on the flying boat. Valley Master Yun, Senior Brother Flying Bird, how have you been? Yun Yizhen and a blue-robed middle-aged man also smiled and cupped their fists in return. Sect Master Zhu, Senior Brother Qin, it's been a while since we last met. You're still as radiant as ever. Huzzah! After a simple exchange of pleasantries, the two parties gathered together. Jiang Chengxuan's gaze fell on Shen Ruyan. It had been 100 years since they last met. Shen Ruyan had also reached the peak of soul formation. The two of them looked at each other in midair and smiled tacitly. After a while, Yan Yizhen said to Zhu Ping and Qin Shenwu, why don't we enter the Thousand River Secret Realm together like before? On our side, Shen Ruyan will be leading the team. If I'm not wrong, the leader of your Haoran sect should be Martial Nephew Jiang, right? That's right. Zhu Ping and Qin Shenwu nodded. Qin Shenwu said, I personally have no objections to Senior Brother Yun's suggestion. I don't have a problem with that. Zhu Ping shook his head with a smile. However, the situation in the Thousand River Secret Realm can be said to be ever-changing. As for the exact situation, they'll only know after they enter. I remember in the past, many times a group entered and ended up being separated. In such situations, it all comes down to their individual strength and abilities. But of course, I fully support Valley Master Yun's suggestion. Let's call all of them over and give them some instructions. All right. Soon Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others were called to Qin Shenwu's side. After explaining the joint decision between the two sects, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and their group all nodded in agreement. Buzz. Following that, many cultivators from other sects arrived. They were all super sects and overlord forces. Among them were the Kayan family and the Kayankun Hall, which had once recruited Jiang Chengxuan. Other than that, there were also overlord forces such as the Divine Shadow Sect, the Eternal Sword Sect, and the Flying Swallow Pavilion. The relationships between the various forces were different. Some were harmonious, while others were hostile. But at this moment, no matter who it was, even the Haoran sect and the Five Elements Heavenly Sect couldn't be bothered with engaging in a conflict. Because at this time, the Thousand River Secret Realm was about to open. Entering Stone Giant. Rumble. Between heaven and earth, suddenly, beams of spiritual light surged skyward, causing the void itself to start violently shaking at this moment. All eyes present turned towards an area a few miles ahead. There a portal slowly opened, from which a torrent of primordial spirit chi surged forth. Was that the Thousand River Secret Realm? This thought occurred to all the cultivators visiting for the first time. When the portal expanded to about 7 or 8 meters in diameter, people immediately began flying towards it. In the blink of an eye, those who flew towards the portal disappeared without a trace. Husband, it's about time, let's go in too. At this moment, Shen Ruyan turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan nodded, then turned to the others and said, Everyone, let's go too. With that, he took the lead. In a flash, he dashed into the portal. Seeing this, the others also rushed into the portal. Before long, all the cultivators intending to enter the Thousand River Secret Realm had gone through the portal. The Thousand River Secret Realm would remain open for a month. After a month, everyone inside would be transported out. Jiang Chengxuan recalled the information about the Thousand River Secret Realm. A light flashed before his eyes. When his vision cleared, he found himself standing on a vast expanse of yellow land. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, a few figures appeared beside him. They were Shen Ruyan, Feng Nianchuan, and a female cultivator named Yao Enri from Thunderclap Valley. Just the four of us. Jiang Chengxuan frowned slightly. According to his initial expectation, with more than a dozen people from their two sects entering the Thousand River Secret Realm, at least half of them should have been able to gather together. But now there were only four of them. The others had obviously been transported to different locations. Let's move. We'll look around to see if we can find the other brothers and sisters, Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan and the others. Then he took the lead, flying towards one of the directions in front of them. Shen Ruyan and the others followed immediately. However, after some time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not encounter any more members of their team. They did bump into a few disciples from other sects. Thankfully, there was no enmity between their sects. Since everyone had just entered the Thousand River Secret Realm, there was nothing to fight over, so they managed to coexist peacefully. It seems the other brothers and sisters are quite far from us. Finding them and regrouping will not be a quick or easy task. So, in the coming time, let's explore the Thousand River Secret Realm first. Do any of you have any objections? Jiang Chengxuan looked at Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anri for their opinions. After exchanging glances, Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anri both shook their heads, indicating they had no objections. With no objections from them and Shen Ruyan, Jiang Chengxuan's Dao companion, obviously not having any objections either, the group of four decided on a direction and began their exploration. Based on the intelligence they had gathered before entering, once they settled on a direction, opportunities meant for them would appear along that path. What they needed to do was to overcome any obstacles that arose during this process, including those posed by the secret realm itself, as well as other sect cultivators. Thud, thud, thud. After flying forward for several hours, a series of dull, thunderous noises suddenly echoed between heaven and earth. Subsequently, 7 or 8 giants, each 1,000 feet tall, appeared in front of them. The skin of each giant seemed to be made of rock, exuding an incredibly sturdy and powerful aura. Yao Anri from Thunderclap Valley slightly narrowed her eyes and couldn't help but exclaim, "It's the stone giants! The stone giants!" Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were momentarily taken aback. Soon, detailed information about the stone giants came to mind. The stone giants were not so named because their bodies were made entirely of stone, but because their bodies were as strong and powerful as rocks. Each stone giant possessed innate earth elemental divine powers. Most importantly, as long as they were in contact with the ground, they could draw endless power from the earth itself. This was what made the stone giants truly formidable. Although all native beings appearing in the Thousand River Secret Realm were creations of the Secret Realm and not real beings, their powers, strengths, talents, and divine powers were no different from those of real beings. At this moment, the stone giants had clearly noticed Jiang Chengxuan and his group, with fierce and violent lights shining in their eyes. Outsiders must die. As they spoke, several of the stone giants suddenly raised their hands towards the sky. Boom! In an instant, the sky, which had been clear of clouds, suddenly darkened. The next moment, meteor-like giant rocks, carrying an unparalleled terrible force, furiously smashed towards Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. "Let me take them on first," Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan and the others, turning his head. Then, his entire being transformed into a streak of light. Swish, swish, swish. In the high sky, several golden threads appeared as if lines drawn on white paper. These lines rapidly interwove in midair into a large net. When the meteoric rocks from the sky finally fell, they landed precisely on the net drawn by the golden threads. Kai, kai, kai. Like a knife through butter, the The meteoric rocks were instantly sliced into countless pieces upon contact with the golden net, clattering to the ground without posing any threat to Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Is that the metal element divine power, comprehended by senior brother Jiang? Such sharp cutting force, such domineering speed, Feng Nianchuan couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Roar! However, Jiang Chengxuan's actions had clearly thoroughly enraged the stone giants. 3 of the stone giants simultaneously stomped on the ground beneath them. The next moment, their massive bodies leaped into the air. Phew! In midair, more than a dozen mountain-sized stone grinding discs appeared, howling and spinning as they collectively attacked Jiang Chengxuan. Black ironclad gold. Be careful. Seeing this scene, both Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anri instinctively tensed up. They could clearly feel the immense power behind the opponent's attack, which would require caution even for them to handle. However, Jiang Chengxuan, still in midair, did not stop his motion. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, more than a dozen golden lines appeared in the air again. The many stone grinding discs that were howling and spinning towards Jiang Chengxuan suddenly lit up with golden light on their surfaces. Then they were simultaneously sliced into several sections in mid-air, crashing down to the ground with a thunderous roar. Raise! At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's hands made a seal. Splash, splash, splash. Instantly, large volumes of water surged in the void, transforming into roaring water dragons that charged towards the stone giants. Boom! A faint yellow light shield suddenly appeared in front of the stone giants. It was as if it wanted to block Jiang Chengxuan's attack. However, the water dragons seemed endless. One after another, they slammed into the yellow light shield continuously until it completely shattered. Countless water dragons then submerged the stone giants entirely. Roar! An unwilling and angry roar erupted from the stone giants in the air. But when their roar ceased, all that remained on the ground were piles of rubble, leaving only a few black gold stones quietly radiating light. It's black ironclad gold. Upon seeing those black gold stones, Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anri couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. They were well aware that in the Thousand River Secret Realm, these black gold stones were of utmost importance. They served as proof of one's performance within the realm. The more black ironclad gold one collected, the more precious the treasures one could receive as rewards afterward. Some individuals even specialized in hunting down other cultivators within the Thousand River Secret Realm to seize their black ironclad gold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are a total of 6 black ironclad gold. Feng Nianchuan picked up the 6 black ironclad gold pieces and handed them to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, Senior brother Jiang, getting 6 black ironclad gold pieces just after entering seems like our luck isn't too bad. Indeed, the acquisition of 6 black ironclad gold pieces was quite satisfactory for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Without lingering in the area for too long, the group of 4 quickly continued forward. They encountered several more groups of enemies along the way, but none posed any substantial threat. Instead, those enemies contributed an additional 20 black ironclad gold pieces to their accumulation. Including the original 6 pieces, Jiang Chengxuan and his group now possessed a total of 26 black ironclad gold pieces. Junior brother Feng, have you been able to contact junior sister Xiao and the others? Jiang Chengxuan asked Feng Nianchuan. Feng Nianchuan shook his head. No luck. While the secret realm doesn't prohibit contact between us, it seems there's a certain range limitation. Since we still can't reach junior sister Xiao and the others, it's likely they are quite far from us. It seems there's not much we can do then. Jiang Chengxuan frowned slightly. He turned to Shen Ruyan and asked, Wife, you can't contact your fellow sect members either. Shen Ruyan shook her head. It's the same on our end. Like junior brother Feng said, it seems we are very far apart from each other. Jiang Chengxuan nodded understandingly. They had prepared for such a scenario before entering. The fact that the 4 of them could gather was already quite fortunate. Being separated and alone, especially with limited strength, would be a real predicament. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, a series of loud noises echoed through the heavens and earth. Suddenly, several dragons, each thousands of feet tall, appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Dragons at the peak of soul formation. Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anri's expressions turned solemn. These enemies were even more powerful than the stone giants they had encountered earlier. Each dragon resembled a towering mountain, especially when they spread their wings, seemingly covering the sky. Roar! The dragons had clearly noticed Jiang Chengxuan and his group. As they roared, they also spewed endless flames from their mouths. Whoosh! The air was filled with the scent of scorching, and a long trail of charred marks appeared wherever the flames passed. Condense! Yao Anrui immediately summoned a shield flickering with endless thunder, which grew in the wind and quickly expanded to hundreds of feet in size. Boom, boom, boom! The flames that hit her thunder shield caused its light to rapidly dim, and Yao Anrui's complexion slightly paled. Fortunately, at that moment, Shen Ruyan's fingertips suddenly sparked with a string of purple arcs. Crack! In the blink of an eye, the purple arcs landed on the flames. With a sizzling sound, the flames were directly extinguished into nothingness by the purple arcs. Junior sister Yao, leave these creatures to me, Shen Ruyan said, with thunder flashing in her brow. The next moment, a sword cry resounded through the air, and a treasure sword flickering with 5-colored radiance traced arcs across the sky. There was a swish. A dragon's brow suddenly bore a sword hole, flashing with thunder, with electric sparks jumping within. Roar! Sensing danger, the remaining dragons showed signs of panic in their eyes and attempted to flee. HMPH, since you've come, none of you shall leave, Shen Ruyan snorted coldly. In the next instant, endless thunder condensed in her palm, and a misty cloud of thunder, carrying an extremely terrifying destructive power, appeared behind the remaining dragons. It was the primordial unified QJ thunder she had comprehended in Thunderclap Valley. Crack! Rumble! In an instant, the terrible thunder exploded. The dragons didn't even have time to react before their bodies were rapidly vaporized. Their massive forms melted away like wax candles, quickly shrinking until nothing remained but a pile of dust, leaving behind 8 pieces of black iron cloud gold twinkling faintly. Repetitive experience. A few days later, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions had traveled a considerable distance within the Thousand River secret realm. During this time, they had collected many treasures that would be considered exceptional even in the outside world. They had amassed over 80 pieces of black iron cloud gold. However, what puzzled them was that over these days, they hadn't encountered anyone else in the Thousand River secret realm, which was unusual. Typically, encounters with individuals from different sects or families would occur every 1 to 2 days. This lack of encounters was quite rare. However, Jiang Chengxuan and his group didn't dwell too much on this anomaly. That is until they found themselves back at the familiar yellow terrain where they had initially entered, which made their expressions turn grave. They were back at their starting point, but what troubled them the most was encountering the same enemies again. First the stone giants, then the dragons. What's going on? Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui looked somewhat troubled, realizing they were seemingly trapped in a loop of repeating experiences. Both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan also sensed something was amiss, but remained calm. After they checked their surroundings, Shen Ruyan looked at Jiang Chengxuan and asked, "Husband, did you discover anything different?" Jiang Chengxuan shook his head. "In terms of the environment and the enemies we encounter, there's no difference. But I have a feeling." After Jiang Chengxuan spoke, he paused momentarily, causing Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui to turn their heads towards him. Jiang Chengxuan's expression suddenly became very serious, and he said in a solemn tone, "If my guess is correct, our trial in the Thousand River secret realm has already begun. Or rather, we have entered the domain governed by the rules of a certain dharmic artifact. Only by passing the test of this artifact's rules can we truly leave this place." What? Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui were both shocked upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words. They had not expected such a conjecture from him. But upon reflection, what Jiang Chengxuan suggested was indeed a possibility. "Then, may I ask senior brother Jiang, what exactly do you think the test we have to undergo is?" Yao Anrui couldn't help but ask. However, Jiang Chengxuan shook his head. "I can't be completely sure for the time being. Next, we need to confirm it again." With that, Jiang Chengxuan continued forward. When the others saw this, they immediately followed. Just like that, many days later, Jiang Chengxuan and the others returned to the place they came from. The yellow earth, the stone giants, the dragons. Looking at the familiar scene, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Feng Nianquan, and Yao Anri all looked very serious. It seems like senior brother Jiang was right, Feng Nianquan said in a low voice. We might indeed be undergoing a test within the rules of a dharmic artifact. If we cannot pass this artifact's test, there's a significant chance we'll be trapped here forever. This is the danger of the Thousand River Secret Realm. Anyone entering could face fatal dangers, regardless of being minor cultivators or at the peak of soul formation like Jiang Chengxuan and his group. Once inside, one could face all sorts of perilous challenges. I wonder what we should do to pass this test. Yao Anri could not help but ask. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan both shook their heads, signaling their uncertainty. We can't be sure yet, but since we're already here, let's thoroughly investigate what it intends for us and how long it plans to keep us in this loop, Jiang Chengxuan proposed, and they continued onward. Thus, they went through the cycle repeatedly, over 10 times, spending more than a month in the process. Under normal circumstances, they should have been teleported out of the Thousand River Secret Realm by now. However, not only had they not been transported out, but the trial had also not concluded. This won't do. If we continue like this, we'll never be able to leave, Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri expressed, visibly becoming agitated. They were struggling with the repetitive torture of experiencing the same events over and over, causing cracks in their Dao heart. This made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan even more concerned. If I'm not mistaken, the trial aimed at us probably involves us endlessly repeating the same experiences, Jiang Chengxuan speculated. Repeat the same experiences. Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri were incredulous at Jiang Chengxuan's suggestion. How is that possible? Then how long does it intend to test us? They asked. Jiang Chengxuan glanced at them before replying gravely, It's hard to say. I fear the test won't stop until we're on the verge of a mental breakdown. The statement turned Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri pale. This was because they had all thought of a problem. If what Jiang Chengxuan said was true, then the probability of them really leaving this place this time was less than 10%. After all, no one can guarantee what might happen when one is on the verge of a mental breakdown. Most importantly, they couldn't ensure whether the trial here would end at that point. If it did, Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri were somewhat afraid to continue contemplating this. Well, senior brother Jiang, senior sister Shen, what if we try splitting up? Could there be a different outcome? Suddenly, Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri proposed this idea to them. Hearing their words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realized that their companions' spirits were probably at some sort of breaking point. Continuing to keep them together might not be the best option. So, Jiang Chengxuan nodded at the two of them. If you want to try splitting up to see if the situation changes, then let us separate for now. But according to my estimate, we will eventually come back together. Reward Samsara steals. Indeed, the outcome was exactly as Jiang Chengxuan had anticipated. After Jiang Chengxuan, Feng Nianquan, and the others separated, they found themselves reunited on the same expanse of yellow land several days later. This recurring scenario somewhat pushed Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri towards the brink of collapse. They were trapped in a loop, uncertain of how to break free, especially after experiencing the cycle several more times, pushing both Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri to the edge of their mental endurance. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt that they had only gone through less than half of the trial. Perhaps enduring these repetitive experiences was meant to temper their resilience and patience. After several more cycles, Feng Nianquan and Yao Anri suddenly disappeared from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's sight, which surprised the couple. They wondered if their companions had encountered danger or had been ejected by the realm's rules, but they couldn't ascertain their fate. At that time, they also didn't have the energy to worry about them, as they found themselves on the repetitive path once again. After Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had gone through the cycle 100 times, the repetitive experiences suddenly ceased, and they were presented with a massive mountain peak. At the peak there stood 2 stone steels. As they approached the steels, dazzling light burst forth from them, and the steels began to rapidly shrink. Eventually, they transformed into 2 stone steels the size of jade pendants, and landed in Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hands. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realized what these small steels were. They were the reward for passing the trial, known as the Samsara steels. The function of the Samsara steels was specifically designed to temper the will of cultivators. Each set of 100 repetitions constituted one trial. Although this type of trial might seem simple, the profundity it encompassed was immense. Ordinary cultivators might manage the same experience once, twice, or 3 times without much issue. But what about 10 times, 100 times, or even thousands to tens of thousands of times? Likely, very few could withstand it. Moreover, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan distinctly felt that, after passing the trial and receiving their samsara steels, their primordial spirit seemed to illuminate, as if undergoing a significant elevation and benefit. Indeed, once the turmoil within Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's primordial spirit calmed, they both clearly noticed a tremendous enhancement in their primordial spirit. They also felt that a few more similar enhancements could make facing the spiritual tribulation required for breaking through to void returning seem like no challenge at all. The rewards from the Thousand River Secret Realm were indeed substantial. Bringing their respective samsara steels back would likely cause immense joy to their Shifu and sect. After all, treasures capable of tempering will and strengthening primordial spirit were extremely rare in the entire celestial floodgate realm. It remained uncertain where Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui were at the moment, and whether they were all right. With these thoughts, the pair headed down the mountain. Upon reaching the base, they were startled to find Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui wandering in circles, their eyes betraying a hint of madness, suggesting their spirits were nearly broken. They needed to be awakened immediately. Otherwise, continuing in this state could lead to a complete mental breakdown and the disintegration of their primordial spirit. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan each took out their samsara steel and gently illuminated their friends with it. Instantly, a white light beamed from each of their steels, falling upon Feng and Yao. In a moment, the previously disoriented and almost mad pair steadied, their eyes regaining clarity. Upon seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, their faces lit up with joy and relief. "Senior brother Jiang, senior sister Shen. How are you feeling now?" Jiang Chengxuan asked. After checking on their condition, Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui shook their heads towards Jiang Chengxuan. "We feel like we're okay now, but just now." Seemingly recalling a terrifying experience, their faces momentarily showed fear. "By the way, senior brother Jiang, how are you, and senior sister Shen? Are you all right? How did you find us?" Upon hearing their companions' questions, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not conceal anything and shared the entire story with them. Feng Nianchuan and Yao Anrui first reacted with astonishment, then joy. "Senior brother Jiang, senior sister Shen, are you saying you each received the reward from the trial?" "That's right." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. They then showed the samsara steels in their hands. "It's really the samsara steels, that's wonderful. Now our sect will also have treasures to temper the will and strengthen the primordial spirit." Their reaction indicated they had heard of the samsara steels before, which piqued the curiosity of Jiang and Shen. Yao Anrui explained, "Senior brother Jiang, senior sister Shen, you might not be aware, but over the years our various sects and families have had some guesses and understanding of the treasures within the Thousand River Secret Realm. However, some treasures are deeply hidden, and without obtaining them, it's impossible to determine their exact nature. Moreover, during the trial process, our awareness of certain information and intelligence can be obscured by the trial's rules, just like the samsara steels you obtained. Ideally, we should have had some speculation about them during our trial, but at that time, our minds contained no thoughts related to them at all." "I see." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan responded, both surprised. They were not fully aware that the trial could obscure certain cognitions within a cultivator's mind. However, looking back, their own cognition and judgment seemed largely unaffected during the trial, a situation they found difficult to explain. Yet the couple decided not to discuss this anomaly openly. Deciding not to linger any longer, they quickly chose a direction and proceeded on their way. Chaotic Cosmos Array. At the same time as Jiang Chengxuan and his group were making their discoveries within the Thousand River Secret Realm, Xiao Zume and others who had entered the realm with them also obtained some valuable items. Especially noteworthy was Xiao Zume, who had acquired an object desired by many for averting tribulations. In the spiritual realm, any item that could be used to avert tribulations was extremely precious and rarely seen on the market. The primary reason was the high demand for such items. They would be instantly snapped up as soon as they appeared. So, just by obtaining this tribulation-averting treasure, Xiao Zume could already consider her journey worthwhile. At that moment, she was exploring the Thousand River secret realm with two fellow disciples from the Haoran sect. Suddenly, an array light began to rise from the area where they stood, causing Xiao Zume and her companions' expressions to change instantly. Not good, someone has set up an array here. Halasa. Accompanied by a burst of laughter, 6 figures suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Zume and her companions, whose expressions turned grim. Not good. It's people from the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect. If the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley were considered closely allied brother sects, then the relationship between the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect was akin to that between the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley. The 6 individuals each held an array flag, looking at Xiao Zume and her companions with a hint of triumph. So it's the folks from the Haoran sect. You can only blame your bad luck for being caught by us. The person who spoke was a mustached man. He turned to the 5 people beside him and said, "Brothers and sisters, while there are only 3 of them, let's take this opportunity to deal with them quickly. This way, our 5 Elements Heavenly Sect can also vent some anger." The relationship between the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Haoran sect was already fraught with hostility. In addition, before entering the Thousand River secret realm, their sect master, Bai Ziliang, had suffered another sneak attack from Qin Shenwu. The disciples of the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, Qin Shenwu's actions were considered a sneak attack, which resulted in their sect master suffering a significant loss. In such a situation, if they could deal with Xiao Zume and the other 2, they would surely receive great praise from their sect master upon their return, potentially reaping unexpected rewards. Hearing his words, the other 5 immediately nodded in agreement. "Senior Brother Yi, just lead the way, and we will follow." "Yes, we're all listening to you." Brother Yi, the man with the mustache, smiled and nodded in response. "Good, since all my junior brothers and sisters are willing to follow my lead, let's teach these Haoran sect fellows a lesson. It's time they learned that our 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect are not to be trifled with." With that, Brother Yi waved the array flag in his hand, and the other 5 coordinated with him. Instantly, the previously calm array became alive with ferocious attacks. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A flurry of cold lights, like a rain of arrows, attacked Xiao Zume and her 2 companions, who immediately deployed their defensive pure yang treasures to resist. However, this defense immediately caused their hearts to sink. The attack from the array was too vicious, to the point that even with their cultivation, they could hardly withstand it for long. "Senior Sister Xiao, what do we do now? At this rate, we can only hold on for a few hours at most. After that, I fear we might." The unsaid words hung in the air, but the meaning was clear to all 3 of them. "Look over there, something seems to be happening." At the same time, hundreds of miles away from Xiao Zume and her group, Jiang Chengxuan and his companion suddenly noticed the commotion and their expressions turned serious. "Let's go and see," Jiang Chengxuan said to the others, then took the lead, flying towards that location. "Senior Brother Yi, it seems like someone is coming our way." The cultivators from the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect, who were monitoring the array and watching Xiao Zume and her 2 companions, suddenly shifted their gaze towards Jiang Chengxuan and his group's direction. A sense of solemnity appeared on everyone's faces, and Senior Brother Yi's expression darkened. The arrival of others at this time was not a good sign. "Let's wait and see. If they are from other sects, we need not bother with them. But if they are from the Haoran sect..." Senior Brother Yi's eyes flashed with a cold light as he left his sentence unfinished, implying a sinister intent. "Then we'll keep them here as well. With the chaotic cosmos array at our disposal, they won't be able to stir up any trouble." As Jiang Chengxuan and his companions approached, the expressions of Senior Brother Yi and his group changed drastically. "Not good, it's people from the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley." A fierce light flashed in Senior Brother Yi's eyes as he commanded, "Kill." Boom! In that instant, the range of the array controlled by Senior Brother Yi and his group suddenly expanded, quickly enveloping Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Sensing the fluctuation of the array, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions instantly became serious, and they quickly noticed the presence of Senior Brother Yi and others. So it's the rats from the Five Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect, Jiang Chengxuan remarked, as his stature seemed to soar immensely. There was a loud bang. A fiercely powerful punch was unleashed from his hand. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void buzzed under the force of his punch, halting the array that was enveloping him and Shen Ruyan in midair. What? Senior Brother Yi and the others were all shocked. They hadn't anticipated that their chaotic cosmos array would be stopped by Jiang Chengxuan's single punch. Rise, Brother Yi roared fiercely. He and the other five poured their dharmic power into the array flags they held, causing the array's light to become even more intense. However, at that moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly wielded a large halberd, which grew to 1,000 feet in size, carrying an unparalleled terrifying force as it thundered down. Bang, 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 bang. A series of muffled sounds echoed within the chaotic cosmos array. It was clear to see that the force of the deep earth halberd wielded by Jiang Chengxuan was being twisted and diminished. Yet the force was so immense that it exceeded the array's capacity to withstand, leading to the array flags in the hands of Senior Brother Yi and the others to suddenly crack open with numerous fissures. Kill Herbal Garden. What? Senior Brother Yi and the others' faces instantly showed disbelief. The array flags they were using to control the chaotic cosmos array were actually... Boom! Before they could react, Jiang Chengxuan's second strike had already arrived. In that instant, the entire chaotic cosmos array began to shake violently. The array flags in Senior Brother Yi and his group's hands burst open with a bang, the force causing them to stagger backwards. How is this possible? They all looked horrified. Boom! At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan's third strike descended. The massive halberd light, as if piercing through the cosmos, plummeted straight down towards Brother Yi and his group. Damn it! Their eyes turned bloodshot. They all realized that their opponent was intent on killing them, just as they had intended to kill their opponents. Let's see if you truly have the ability, they roared. Boom! In that instant, Brother Yi and the others all summoned their pure yang treasures. Suddenly, the sky lit up with countless dazzling lights. Flying sword, treasure wheels, giant towers, shields, full moons. All kinds of Dharma treasures instantly met Jiang Chengxuan's attack. Rumble! The earth shook, and a terrifying boom spread for thousands of miles. Brother Yi and his group were all showing signs of terror, because they saw Jiang Chengxuan's halberd light directly repel all their summoned treasures, even cracking several of them with its fearsome force. Arg! Someone immediately spat blood. By the time Jiang Chengxuan's fourth strike landed, several bodies exploded into nothingness in midair. With the fifth strike, even Senior Brother Yi himself could no longer hold on. With a bang, both his physical body and primordial spirit disintegrated into nothingness. The Five Elements Heavenly Sect will never forgive you, Senior Brother. He let out a resentful roar before his death. However, Jiang Chengxuan paid him no heed. Jiang Chengxuan casually collected the storage rings of the fallen, then turned his attention to Xiao Zume and her two companions. Junior sister Xiao and the two junior brothers, are you all okay? At this moment, Xiao Zume and her companions were also incredibly shocked. They hadn't expected their senior brother, Jiang's strength, to be so formidable. Despite using all their means, they had been unable to break through the chaotic cosmos array's blockade. Yet senior brother Jiang arrived and, with just 5 moves, had resolved the situation, defeating everyone including senior brother Yi. This level of power was perhaps comparable to some of the weaker void returning divine lords, wasn't it? Thinking this, Xiao Zume and the others shook their heads gratefully. Thank you, senior brother Jiang, for rescuing us. We're fine. Good, as long as you're okay. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. By the way, do you know where the other brothers and sisters are right now? Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's question, Xiao Zume immediately nodded. I know where senior brother Kai and the others from Thunderclap Valley are. Senior sister Zai Hua from the Heoran sect is also with them. They are together. We were actually on our way to join them after receiving their message, but encountered the people from the Five Elements Heavenly Sect and the Eternal Sword Sect on the way. Oh, you received a message from Brother Kai and the others, Shen Ruyan expressed surprise. Did they mention why they wanted you to come over? Xiao Zume nodded. Yes, according to Senior Brother Kai and Senior Sister Zai Hua, they've found a herbal garden that can accelerate the growth of spiritual herbs. However, they're not the only ones there. Cultivators from other sects are also present. Brother Kai and sister Xianxia asked us to come over to help claim ownership of the garden. A herbal garden that can accelerate the growth of spiritual herbs. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were both invigorated by the news. If nothing unexpected occurred, that must be another treasure. Obtaining it would undoubtedly be a significant help to their sect. What's the current situation? Junior sister Xiao, can you still contact senior brother Kai and senior sister Xianxia? Jiang Chengxuan looked towards Xiaozume. I should be able to, she nodded, and quickly sent a message to senior brother Kai using a communication talisman. After a while, senior brother Kai and senior sister Xianxia replied. Xiaozume was surprised when she saw the message. She said to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, according to brother Kai and sister Xianxia, 3 such herbal gardens have been discovered. Everyone is currently vying for those gardens. Shall we go there right now? 3 gardens. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were also surprised. Jiang Chengxuan then nodded decisively. You know the location, right? Let's go now. Yes. Xiaozume immediately nodded. Quickly, Jiang Chengxuan and their group of 7 people headed towards the location of senior brother Kai and senior sister Xianxia. At the same time, in a secluded valley, dozens of cultivators from various sects and families were gathered. Around them stood the 3 herbal gardens that senior brother Kai and senior sister Xianxia had mentioned. At this moment, a white-browed man from the 5 Elements heavenly sect spoke up. Fellow Taoists, as I see it, these 3 herbal gardens are extremely valuable to all of us here, as well as to our sects and families. I believe none of us will easily give up on them. Given this, why don't we decide the ownership of these 3 gardens based on our strength? I have no objections. A long-haired man from the Eternal Sword sect voiced his agreement. Currently, the groups with the most numbers present were undoubtedly the people from the 5 Elements heavenly sect and the Eternal Sword sect. Together, they had a total of 18 cultivators, while other groups had only 6 to 7, or at most 10 members. In particular, the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley had only 4 people in total. Kaikainkun, Xianxia, and the other 2. This was the main reason they had asked Xiaozume to come and attempted to contact other fellow disciples. Their numbers were simply too few. Not only did they lack any advantage, but they were also extremely vulnerable to being targeted, just like the current situation. The white-browed man from the 5 Elements heavenly sect then turned his gaze towards Kaikainkun and Xianxia. Taking 2 herbal gardens. You few, do you also intend to compete with us for these herbal gardens? The white-browed man was quite blunt, directly challenging them as he spoke. Upon hearing his words, the eyes of the others present flickered. Indeed, purely based on numbers, the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley indeed had the fewest people. However, it was undeniable that both Kaikainkun and Xianxia had strengths not commonly found among late-stage soul formation or even peak soul formation cultivators. This was the main reason they had not left yet. However, the white-browed man's actions undoubtedly put Kaikainkun and Xianxia at a disadvantage, considering everyone present hailed from either a super or an overlord force. In terms of strength, although there was a gap, it was definitely not too big. This created an illusion that if everyone present could unite, they could easily exclude Kaikainkun and Xianxia from the competition. What, we want to compete for these gardens? Does the 5 Elements heavenly sect have any problems with that? Unexpectedly to the white-browed man and the long-haired man, soon after the former spoke, a very unkind voice suddenly echoed among the crowd. The cultivators from the 5 Elements heavenly sect, including the white-browed man, turned their gaze coldly towards the source of the voice. Everyone turned to look in the direction from which the voice had come. There 7 people were approaching. The 2 in the lead were a man and a woman. It was Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Senior brother Jiang, senior sister Shen 11. Kaikainkun and Xianxia were pleasantly surprised. They had not expected Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to appear at this moment, which secretly relieved them. With them around, their side should at least be able to compete for one of the herbal gardens. Unlike Kaikainkun and Xianxia's reactions, the white-browed man and the others' eyes were cold. Especially when they saw the 3 people following Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the coldness in their eyes deepened. They clearly remembered that their senior brother had trapped Xiaozume and the others. The situation had turned unexpectedly. Brother Yi had not arrived, but instead, Xiao Zume and her group had. This strongly implied something had happened to Brother Yi and his group, a fact that became apparent when the 5 elements heavenly sex cultivators attempted to contact him without any response. This further confirmed the suspicions of the white-browed man and his group, who now looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan with thinly veiled murderous intent. The 3 herbal gardens here, our Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley, intend to claim one each. You all don't have any objections, do you? Jiang Chengxuan said with a smile, looking around at everyone present. Hearing his words, some of the cultivators who were previously indifferent suddenly sharpened their gaze. The white-browed man and his companions were infuriated, yet laughed mockingly. What arrogance! You just arrived and already want to claim 2 of the gardens for yourself. Who do you think you are? The atmosphere turned hostile as everyone's gaze darkened. After all, with treasures at stake, none of those present would easily back down or willingly concede to others. Whether my claim is too bold, you'll soon find out. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Just moments ago, he had learned from Xiao Zume and her group that the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect had been seeking an opportunity to hunt down cultivators from the Haoran sect, especially targeting him, Jiang Chengxuan. It was said that anyone who could kill Jiang Chengxuan would receive a significant reward from within their sect. Since you're targeting me, don't blame me for not showing mercy towards the people from the 5 Elements Heavenly Sect, Jiang Chengxuan thought, stepping forward. Buzz. Instantly, the space in front of him fluctuated, and the golden void sword crossed vast distances to appear before the white-browed man and his group. How dare you! The white-browed man and the others clearly did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to attack so decisively. This made him and the other 5 Elements Heavenly Sect cultivators instinctively feel a strong killing intent. Brothers and sisters, attack together, kill him, they roared. Boom! In that moment, various elemental spells, divine powers, and dharma treasures were unleashed towards Jiang Chengxuan. Similarly, the cultivators from the Eternal Sword sect joined the fray. In the sky, countless sword chi condensed, slashing towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan with destructive intent. Bang, 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 bang. At this moment above Jiang Chengxuan, a 5 Elements aureola appeared, blocking all incoming spells, divine powers, and treasures, not allowing any to get close to him. What? The white-browed man and his group were all taken aback. Their attacks couldn't breach Jiang Chengxuan's defense at all. How is this possible? Before they could react, a massive halberd, as if it were a mountain, came crashing down upon them. Boom! In that instant, all sorts of spells and divine powers were annihilated, and the dharma treasures they had summoned were also sent flying. Arg! Some of them immediately suffered backlash, spitting out blood. At this moment, not only were the white-browed man and his group shocked, but the rest of the onlookers were also stunned. They had not anticipated that Jiang Chengxuan's strength would have reached such an extent. Is this really the power of a soul formation cultivator? Get lost, vacate the areas you've occupied, and I won't pursue this further. Otherwise, don't blame me for not showing mercy, Jiang Chengxuan said indifferently, looking at the white-browed man and his group. He was well aware that with so many people present, if he really killed the white-browed man and his group right from the start, it could indeed lead to significant trouble. Of course, if he gave them a way out and they chose not to take it, that would be a different matter. At that point, even if he did go a bit too far, it would still be justifiable. However, for the white-browed man and his group, this was undoubtedly a great humiliation, something utterly unacceptable. The white-browed man's face suddenly revealed a ferocious expression. The next moment, he took out a talisman from his hand. The talisman was orange red in color and emitted a terrifying fluctuation as soon as the white-browed man took it out, leaving the Thousand River secret realm. Be careful. Seeing the talisman taken out by the white-browed man, Kai Kayankun and Zai Hua's expressions changed, quickly voicing a warning. However, Jiang Chengxuan simply smirked coldly. With a flick of his hand, the talisman that had just been taken out by the white-browed man was somehow returned to his storage ring. What? Everyone was stunned. The white-browed man was especially shocked. Just now, Jiang Chengxuan actually reversed his time back to a few seconds ago. What is going on? Could it be that Jiang Chengxuan had mastered the rules of time? But how could that be possible? One had to know that the rule of time was one of the supreme rules. not to mention soul formation cultivators like them, even void returning. Divine lords rarely grasped it. Swoosh. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's figure suddenly turned into a straight golden line. It directly swept past the white-browed man. In an instant, the white-browed man's eyes widened in shock. He stared dumbfounded at Jiang Chengxuan, who had appeared behind him, opened his mouth to speak, and then his entire body split into two, dissipating along with his primordial spirit into the void. Senior Brother Li. Witnessing the white-browed man being killed, the remaining cultivators from the five elements heavenly sect cried out in grief and anger. Whoosh! In that instant, Jiang Chengxuan reached out his hand, and the storage ring from the white-browed man immediately flew into his grasp. In just a moment, he removed the restrictions on it and took out a talisman emitting a terrifying aura. Oh, a 5 elements annihilation talisman. Is this the unique level 7 talisman of your 5 elements heavenly sect? That's right. The talisman that the white-browed man had taken out was this 5 elements annihilation talisman, possessing the power of a level 7 talisman. Although Jiang Chengxuan was not afraid of such a talisman with his current strength, why wait for the opponent to activate it if he could resolve the situation more effortlessly? I'll say this one last time, leave the area you are occupying immediately. Otherwise, blame me for not showing mercy. Jiang Chengxuan turned to the cultivators from the 5 elements heavenly sect in the Eternal Sword sect. Hearing his words, the faces of the cultivators from both sects reddened with anger and humiliation, yet they were powerless in the face of Jiang Chengxuan's demonstrated strength. Not only had he single-handedly blocked all their attacks, but he also managed to reverse the action of their senior brother Li, the white-browed man, sending the 5 elements annihilation talisman back into his storage ring in an instant. This level of skill was beyond anything any of them could achieve. It was clear that if a full-on conflict were to break out, the 5 elements heavenly sect and the Eternal Sword sect would undoubtedly be at a disadvantage, possibly even facing total annihilation. With this realization, a cold man from the 5 elements heavenly sect took a deep look at Jiang Chengxuan and then told his companions, "Let's go." With that, he took the lead and walked away without any hesitation. Despite their reluctance, the others knew resistance was futile for now. They decided to settle scores after leaving the Thousand River secret realm. After the 5 elements heavenly sect and the Eternal Sword sect left, Jiang Chengxuan and his group unhesitatingly took over the gardens previously occupied by their opponents. Together with the garden, initially claimed by Kai Kainkun and Zai Hua, the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley now controlled 2 of the herbal gardens. Most importantly, other sects and family cultivators didn't dare to provoke Jiang Chengxuan and his group, thoroughly deterred by his earlier display of power. About a few days later, the 3 herbal gardens here began to shrink and turn into 3 palm-sized miniature herbal gardens that landed in the 3 forces that occupied them. At this time, there was not much time left before the Thousand River secret realm closed. Jiang Chengxuan glanced at everyone present and smiled. Since we still have some time, let's go to other places and see if we can find any treasures. Yes. All the cultivators accepted the order. At this moment, be it the cultivators of the Haoran sect or the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley, they were all sincerely impressed by Jiang Chengxuan. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan led everyone to find some good treasures in the Thousand River secret realm. 2 of them were tribulation-averting treasures. It would be of great help to them in breaking through to void returning. Buzz. Just a few days later, all the cultivators within the Thousand River secret realm felt a powerful suction force. Soon, they found themselves uncontrollably flying out of the secret realm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In just a moment, everyone, including Jiang Chengxuan and his group, swiftly left the Thousand River secret realm. Outside the Thousand River secret realm, a group of powerhouses closely monitoring the situation inside noticed the change. They are coming out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As they spoke, they saw one cultivator after another being transported out of the Thousand River secret realm. Once everyone had exited the realm and the secret realm had fully closed, many of the powerhouses' expressions soured. The reason was that the disciples from their sects and families had suffered significant losses during this expedition into the Thousand River secret realm. Even the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley, where Jiang Chengxuan belonged, were no exceptions. However, compared to others, the losses suffered by the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley were much less and within an acceptable range, especially when Qin Shenwu, Zhu Ping, and Yun Yizhen learned about their disciples' gains. Their faces couldn't help but show a look of surprise and delight. Whether it was the herbal gardens that could accelerate the growth of spiritual herbs or the samsara steels obtained by Jiang Chengxuan and his group, these treasures were of significant strategic importance. They would play an irreplaceable role in the future development of their respective sects. However, at this moment, a cold and discordant voice suddenly echoed in the ears of the cultivators from both sects. Jiang Chengxuan, you killed the disciples of my five elements heavenly sect and seized the treasures that rightfully belong to our sect. Do you really think you can bully the five elements heavenly sect without consequence? Hearing that voice, Jiang Chengxuan immediately turned his head to look. He saw the sect master of the five elements heavenly sect, Bai Ziliang, looking at him with a cold and menacing gaze. A terrifying aura emanated from him, pressing down towards Jiang Chengxuan. Bai Ziliang, haven't you learned your lesson from before? At that moment, Qin Shenwu's figure suddenly appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. He addressed the sect master of the five elements heavenly sect with a calm voice. So what if we killed disciples from your five elements heavenly sect? We had all agreed beforehand that once inside the Thousand River secret realm, all matters of life and death are left to fate, and no one is to be held accountable afterward. What, could it be that only the disciples of your sect are special? Are you going to break this agreement? Qin Shenwu's words put Bai Ziliang in an awkward position, making his face turn exceedingly ugly. He knew his actions were somewhat untenable, but he felt stifled and angered. Unable to vent these feelings, he found it hard to let go. However, facing Qin Shenwu, who stood in front of Jiang Chengxuan, Bai Ziliang's expression changed several times before he finally snorted coldly. Haoran sect, you'd better watch out and not let us find a chance in the future. He then turned to his disciples and said, Let's go. With that, Bai Ziliang summoned his flying ship, leading the five elements heaven sect's disciples away. Seeing this, Qin Shenwu couldn't help but sneer. However, since the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley had secured a significant advantage, he couldn't be bothered to argue with Bai Ziliang anymore. He turned to Jiang Chengxuan and the others, smiling, Let's go back too. Soon, both the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley returned to the Haoran sect. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were able to obtain the samsara steels and the herbal garden in the Thousand River secret realm because of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. So, as a result, both sects awarded the couple handsomely. They were granted access to most of the scriptures in the Sutra Pavilion and awarded tens of thousands of contribution points. In the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley, 100 contribution points could be exchanged for most soul formation techniques and divine powers. Even void-returning divine powers cost only a few hundred contribution points. This shows how generous the reward of tens of thousands of contribution points to them was. With this wealth of contribution points, the couple wouldn't need to worry about contribution points for the next 1,000 years. Cloud Mist Peak. Half a year had passed since their return to the Haoran sect. During this time, Shen Ruyan stayed by Jiang Chengxuan's side. However, today her shifu, Yun Yizhen, sent her a message indicating it was time to return to Thunderclap Valley. In the coming years, she was to undergo a significant inheritance process in the valley. Once this inheritance was completed, it would be time for her to attempt a breakthrough to void returning. Jiang Chengxuan was in a similar situation. With his current foundation, breaking through to void returning was expected to happen within a few years. Shen Ruyan, looking at Jiang Chengxuan, smiled and said, Husband, my shifu has urged me many times. Unless something unexpected happens, I will be leaving the Haoran sect today. The next time we meet, it should be when both of us have broken through to void returning. Okay, go ahead. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. Not only your shifu, but my shifu has also urged me many times. I hope both of us will successfully break through. All right, then I'll be going now. Shen Ruyan smiled and embraced Jiang Chengxuan. Then she left his cave abode on Cloud Mist Peak, quickly disappearing from his sight. After some time, Jiang Chengxuan visited Shenwu Peak. There his senior brother, Zhao Tianfen, suddenly appeared in front of him, handing him a storage ring. Junior brother Jiang, our shifu is currently in seclusion. However, before he went into seclusion, he asked me to give you this storage ring. It contains many insights on breaking through to void returning, as well as some related resources. Take it. Okay. Jiang Chengxuan accepted the storage ring from Zhao Tianfen, smiling and nodding. Thank you, Shifu, and thank you, senior brother Zhao, for passing these on to me. Junior brother Jiang, you're too polite, Zhao Tianfen chuckled, shaking his head. We're both disciples of the same Shifu. There's no need for so much formality. Remember, breaking through to void returning involves facing 3 tribulations. Be careful, and only attempt to break through when you're fully confident after reviewing all the insights. Understood, I will. Thank you for the reminder, senior brother Zhao. Jiang Chengxuan responded with a smile of gratitude. After that, the two of them continued chatting for a while. Following their conversation, the brothers parted ways, and Jiang Chengxuan returned to his cave abode on Cloud Mist Peak. Upon his return, he began his seclusion with the sole aim of breaking through to void returning. According to what his Shifu, Qin Shenwu, had previously explained, transitioning from soul formation to void returning was essentially a process of strengthening the primordial spirit. It involved transforming the primordial spirit, which was about the height of a person, into a Dharma form. This form had incredible power with every movement, marking the initial stage of void returning, known as the Dharma form stage. At this point, one only needed to transcend 3 tribulations to successfully achieve void returning, thereby granting them endless lifespan. In theory, as long as one could continue to overcome the heavenly tribulations that occur every several tens of thousands of years, they could live indefinitely. However, this was just in theory. If one's cultivation did not advance, the power of each subsequent heavenly tribulation they face every several tens of thousands of years would increase. Once the power of a heavenly tribulation exceeded that of the second stage of void returning, the celestial radiance stage, one would not be able to overcome it and would truly die under the tribulation. Only when a cultivator successfully broke through to the celestial radiance stage, integrating every part of their primordial spirit with heaven and earth, would they have the ability to overcome tribulations of corresponding power. Furthermore, after this breakthrough, the interval between heavenly tribulations would extend. If it was once every 20,000 years during the Dharma form stage, it might become once every 50,000 years after breaking through to the celestial radiance stage. Upon reaching the 3rd stage of void returning, the profound mystery stage, the interval between heavenly tribulations would extend further. In summary, while it seemed cultivators had limitless lifespans after advancing to void returning, there were still significant crises urging them to never cease their cultivation. If they stopped cultivating, what awaited them was death after several tens of thousands of years. At this moment, within the quiet chamber where Jiang Chengxuan resided, waves of energy began to surge. Flames, blue light, golden radiance, raging waves, and the earth itself manifested in various phenomena appearing behind him. Jiang Chengxuan could distinctly feel his primordial spirit ascending, growing from its original size to become much larger. A shadowy figure, identical to him, was gradually taking form behind him, growing taller and larger, almost reaching the ceiling of the cultivation chamber. It was then that Jiang Chengxuan took out a bottle of greenish-blue spiritual liquid. This was the primordial spirit heavenly dew, extremely beneficial for strengthening the primordial spirit and condensing the Dharma form, and a precious resource for breaking through to void returning. It was one of the items given to him by his Shifu, Qin Shenwu, through his senior brother Zhao Tianfen. Upon opening the bottle, Jiang Chengxuan drank the dew. Buzz. Immediately after ingesting it, the Dharma form formed by his primordial spirit began to solidify rapidly. Terrifying auras started emanating from him, and 5 columns of light, each a different color, rose from the Dharma form, breaking through the chamber and the cave abode, reaching the skies above Cloud Mist Peak. There was a swish. In an instant, endless elemental forces poured down from above Cloud Mist Peak, nourishing the spiritual plants on the mountain. Those with elemental properties grew wildly. Inside the chamber, Jiang Chengxuan, who was attempting to break through, felt his dharmic power accumulating to a peak. A sense of premonition told him that his tribulations were about to descend, causing his eyes, previously closed, to suddenly open. In that moment, his gaze, filled with a 5-colored brilliance, flashed briefly. At the same time, simultaneously, A sense of restlessness suddenly rose from the depths of his heart, making him alert. My 3 tribulations are coming, he thought to himself. Boom! At this moment, a flame that existed between the tangible and intangible suddenly rose from the depths of Jiang Chengxuan's heart. This was the first tribulation of breaking through to void returning, the fire tribulation. It originated from the depths of the cultivator's heart, sweeping through their primordial spirit and entire body. Failure to pass this tribulation would result in the cultivator being completely consumed by the flames. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this instant, Jiang Chengxuan was enveloped in blazing flames, with waves of heat filling the entire cultivation chamber. The temperature inside the chamber skyrocketed to thousands of degrees. However, peculiarly, aside from Jiang Chengxuan, the rest of the chamber remained unaffected by the flames. Even as the temperature continued to rise, the chamber itself remained unharmed. Buzz! At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's body and the Dharma form formed by his primordial spirit both conjured a 5 elements aureola. The flames on his body paused briefly upon contacting the aureola before directly leaping into it. Could it be that all treasures and divine powers truly have little effect in overcoming tribulations? Jiang Chengxuan's pupils slightly narrowed. He already knew that relying on external forces to pass void-returning tribulations was nearly impossible. Whether it's the fire, water, or wind tribulations, they all originated from oneself. Their power also stemmed from oneself. Attempting to use external forces to overcome these tribulations was essentially like trying to counter oneself with one's own resources, which was futile. So, the only way to surpass these tribulations was to rely on oneself, on one's own strength and understanding of the Tao. Boom! At this moment, the flames on Jiang Chengxuan became even more intense, burning in his eyes, ears, and nose, and even his Dharma form behind him turned entirely into a figure of fire. The pain originating from the primordial spirit was so intense that even someone with Jiang Chengxuan's willpower couldn't help but frown deeply. Indeed, the fire tribulation of void returning was not easily overcome. However, to think this alone could consume me was far from sufficient. Buzz! At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's will solidified like steel, with invisible energy swirling and rising around him. Boom! Like meteorites colliding with stars, the flames burning on Jiang Chengxuan were suddenly quelled by an invisible force. It could be clearly seen that the flames were extinguishing and disappearing at a visible rate. After a while, with the disappearance of a cooling sensation, all flames on Jiang Chengxuan were extinguished. However, before he could catch his breath, numerous droplets of water appeared on the Dharma form formed by his primordial spirit, bringing a dizzying, suffocating sensation to his mind. This is the water tribulation, Jiang Chengxuan realized immediately. Unlike the explosive nature of the fire tribulation, the water tribulation led to a state of stupor, as if being submerged in suffocating waters, gradually losing vitality. It was the longest-lasting of the 3 tribulations, in the void-returning tribulation. Fortunately, with Jiang Chengxuan's foundation, the power that could hypnotize him and even lead to loss wasn't a real threat to him. On the contrary, he could use the water tribulation as an opportunity to strengthen his primordial spirit and body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A few months later, Jiang Chengxuan's essence, qi, and spirit seemed to be rejuvenated. Every pore and hair on his body seemed to glow. A powerful aura emanated from him, evaporating the droplets on his body and primordial spirit in an instant. Splash! At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan felt an unprecedented sense of relief. His dharmic power became stronger, and his primordial spirit became more agile. However, at this moment, an invisible wind rose beneath Jiang Chengxuan. The wind, appearing in shades of green and black, carried a force capable of dissolving flesh, bones, and souls. This was the final tribulation that one had to experience when breaking through to void returning, the wind tribulation. This wind was the same as fire and water. It could not be blocked with ordinary Dharma treasures and divine powers. Everything had to rely on the cultivator's own strength. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's body, hands, feet, and head were enveloped by streams of green-black wind. These winds quickly formed into tornadoes, attempting to tear his flesh from bone and scatter his soul. Yet Jiang Chengxuan stood firm and unyielding, like an immovable colossal mountain. No matter how fiercely the winds blew, they could not affect him in the slightest. Instead, they served to strengthen his physical body and purify his primordial spirit even further. More than 10 days later, the green-black winds swirling around Jiang Chengxuan began to dissipate slowly. As the winds vanished completely, the Dharma form of his primordial spirit solidified fully behind him. There was a rumble. With a thunderous noise, his Dharma form burst forth from his cave abode, towering between the heavens and earth of Cloud Mist Peak, reaching a height of 3,600 feet. Typically, cultivators breaking through to void returning could only form a Dharma form of about 1,800 feet at most. Jiang Chengxuan's achievement was double that, showcasing the extraordinary strength of his Dharma form. The higher the Dharma form, the more difficult it was to increase its size. Many void-returning divine lords who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years might not achieve a Dharma form of 3,000 feet by the end of their lives. It could be seen how powerful Jiang Chengxuan's essence Dharma form was. At that instant, all the primordial spiritual chi atop Cloud Mist Peak surged towards Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode, forming a massive funnel in the sky above. Surrounded by such an immense amount of primordial spiritual chi, Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation was quickly consolidated. 100 years later, Jiang Chengxuan had fully stabilized at the Dharma form stage of the void returning realm. His Dharma form had grown from its initial height of 3,600 feet to 3,800 feet. Although it might seem like only a 200 feet increase over a century, for many ordinary void returning cultivators, this process could take thousands or even tens of thousands of years to achieve. Ding! At this moment, a system notification suddenly echoed in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Congratulations to the host for achieving the Dharma form stage of void returning and obtaining a fortune pearl. The fortune pearl, once used, grants a blessing of luck, ensuring success and fortune in all endeavors. Jiang Chengxuan lifted his hand, and in his palm appeared a pearl radiating a gentle white light. This was the fortune pearl, seemingly connected to the mysterious forces of fate itself. After securing the fortune pearl, Jiang Chengxuan didn't immediately come out of seclusion. With the accumulation of power he had at his disposal, he was fully capable of elevating his physical cultivation to level 7. However, once his physical cultivation reached level 7, he would have no further methods for cultivating his infinite wheel technique. He hoped that upon this breakthrough, the system would reward him with the subsequent cultivation methods. As he thought about it, Jiang Chengxuan began his cultivation again. Boom! As he resumed his cultivation, a flame furnace materialized in Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation chamber. This was the body-tempering divine furnace, a top-tier precious treasure for body tempering that belonged to his Shifu, Qin Shenwu. Jiang Chengxuan had once expressed his desire to borrow this furnace for his attempt to break through to void returning, a request Qin Shenwu did not deny. At this moment, within this body-tempering divine furnace, Jiang Chengxuan tirelessly refined his physique, enduring a process of being repeatedly shattered, and reformed a torment beyond the endurance of ordinary cultivators, even those at the void returning realm. Yet Jiang Chengxuan persevered through years of such grueling refinement. When his body could no longer be easily shattered by this body-tempering divine furnace, Jiang Chengxuan knew that his body cultivation had already reached level 7. Ding! The truth was as Jiang Chengxuan had expected. Just as his body was honed to level 7, a system notification sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching level 7 of body cultivation, unlocking the spiritual realm chapter of the infinite wheel, and acquiring the physical divine power, shattering the celestial bodies. Instantly, Jiang Chengxuan's mind was flooded with new information, including details about the spiritual realm chapter of the infinite wheel. Among these details was the image of a colossal palm traversing galaxies, causing stars to explode in its path. When this palm reached its destination, the entire galaxy trembled, shattered, and ultimately headed towards oblivion. Jiang Chengxuan was profoundly shaken by the immense power to annihilate stars and obliterate galaxies with a single palm strike. Even though Jiang Chengxuan had now achieved the status of a void-returning divine lord, he dared not claim to possess such formidable power. To put it precisely, he still had a long way to go before reaching that level of strength. Moreover, he believed that as he continued to cultivate this divine technique, its power would only become more terrifying and potent. After meticulously going through the technique in his mind once again, Jiang Chengxuan resumed his cultivation. Over 10 years later, 5 pure yang treasures appeared before Jiang Chengxuan. These were his 5 intrinsic pure yang treasures: golden void sword, eternal scorching sun furnace, deep earth halberd, eastern green dragon flag, and yin-yang divine water jade. At the same time, in his hands was an orb shimmering with 5 colors, which wasn't precisely just an orb because in Jiang Chengxuan's hands, it would sometimes turn into a liquid, at other times into a solid, and then into a gas. At this moment, it manifested as a form of light. This was the 5 elements glorious orb he had exchanged from his Shifu, a treasure capable of fusing his 5 pure yang treasures into one, creating a personal spiritual treasure with 5 elements, known as the universe 5 elements diagram. Once the fusion process of this treasure was completed, its power might rival that of a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, potentially even surpassing his current spiritual treasure, the Sword of Extinction, in terms of might. However, fusing the 5 pure yang treasures into one would require a very long process, possibly counting in thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Yet for Jiang Chengxuan, the time and effort invested in completing the fusion of the universe 5 elements diagram would be entirely worthwhile. Boom, boom, boom. The fusion of the 5 pure yang treasures was an event of significant magnitude. In just an instant, a dazzling 5-colored flame burst forth from Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode, drawing the primordial spiritual chi of the entire cloud mist peak towards a 5-colored orb within his cave abode. This spectacle continued for decades, until the 5-colored light finally merged into Jiang Chengxuan's brow. By this point, Jiang Chengxuan had completed the initial fusion of the 5 elements diagram. He now needed to nurture it over time to transform the diagram into one of the highest grade spiritual treasures, surpassing even his current Sword of Extinction. After tidying up his cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan looked towards the outside of Cloud Mist Peak. I wonder how Ruyan is doing now. Has she succeeded in advancement too? As he thought about it, Jiang Chengxuan took out a communication Jade talisman and sent a message to Shen Ruyan using a special method. Next, I'll have to wait for Ruyan's news. Before that, I still need to make a trip to Shifu and the Elders' Hall. In the Haoran sect, all cultivators who advanced to Void returning could serve as elders. Of course. However, those in the Dharma form of the Void returning realm could only serve as ordinary elders, and only upon breaking through to the Celestial Radiance or Profound Mystery stage could they be considered for core elder positions. Let us go to Shifu's place first and tell him about my breakthrough. Jiang Chengxuan decided to first inform his Shifu of his breakthrough and promptly disappeared from Cloud Mist Peak, reappearing at Shenwu Peak, where all direct disciples of Qin Shenwu could enter without prior notice. At this moment, upon his arrival, he immediately heard Qin Shenwu's voice in his mind. Chengxuan is here, right? Come to me directly. Huh? Upon hearing this voice, Jiang Chengxuan was stunned for a moment before he bowed and replied. Yes, Shifu. Soon. Jiang Chengxuan arrived at Qin Shenwu's cave abode. There he found Qin Shenwu sitting cross-legged on a cushion, who greeted him with a smile and a nod of satisfaction upon his arrival. Well done, truly worthy of being my disciple. You've broken through to Void returning so quickly, and even advanced your body cultivation to level 7. As he spoke, Qin Shenwu took out a token from his body and handed it to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, This is my identity token. With this token, you can go to our Haoran Sex Treasury and choose 3 items that will be useful for your future cultivation. Also, remember to visit the Elders' Hall later. Now that you have broken through to Void returning, it's time for you to take up the position of Elder in our Haoran sect. Yes, Shifu. Jiang Chengxuan respectfully accepted the command, taking the token from Qin Shenwu and thanking him again. Thank you for the treasures, Shifu. I will definitely not forget your kindness in the future. Well, if there's nothing else, you can go now, Qin Shenwu said with a smile and a wave of his hand. Jiang Chengxuan understood and immediately bowed to Qin Shenwu again before leaving his cave abode. At this moment, his senior brother Zhao Tianfen and senior sister Zai Xiangyao were apparently not on Shenwu Peak, probably out on some errand. He informed them of his breakthrough to Void returning through a message, and then set off towards the Haoran Sex Elders' Hall on a beam of light. At the Elders' Hall, two cultivators in charge of the hall were chatting when a faintly oppressive beam of light suddenly flew in from the distance. This shocked the two cultivators in charge of duty. "It's an elder is coming." In their eyes, any cultivator who had reached void returning was considered an elder of the Haoran sect. So, when Jiang Chengxuan descended from his beam of light, the two cultivators immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, elder." Jiang Chengxuan was slightly stunned before he reacted. He smiled and shook his head at the two of them. "I'm not an elder yet. However, I am here precisely to assume the position of an elder. May I know which elder is currently responsible here?" Huh? Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the two cultivators were clearly taken aback, but quickly understood that the senior before them might have just advanced to void returning. One of the cultivators in a long robe replied, "Senior, the elder in charge here today is Elder Hong Mei." "Oh, senior sister Hong Mei." Information about Elder Hong Mei instantly surfaced in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Before this, he had learned about all the elders and supreme elders in the sect. Coincidentally, Elder Hong Mei was also a cultivator who had recently advanced to void returning, just like him, albeit about 500 years earlier. To void returning divine lords who could live for tens of thousands of years, 500 years was nothing. I was wondering why there were joyous finches singing all day today. It turns out we have a junior brother who has successfully advanced to void returning. At that moment, a beautiful woman in a red dress emerged from the elders' hall. This was the very Elder Hong Mei they were talking about. The joyous finches she referred to were a type of auspicious bird in the celestial floodgate realm, symbolizing good fortune similar to magpies in Jiang Chengxuan's previous life. Upon seeing Hong Mei, the two cultivators responsible for guarding the hall immediately bowed respectfully, saying, "Greetings, Elder Hong Mei." Hong Mei nodded slightly towards them, and then turned her attention to Jiang Chengxuan, a smile appearing on her face. "If I'm not mistaken, you should be Martial Uncle Qin's disciple, Jiang Chengxuan, junior brother Jiang, right?" "Greetings, senior sister Hong Mei." Jiang Chengxuan immediately smiled and cupped his fist. "I'm Jiang Chengxuan." Hee, that's really you." Hong Mei smiled. "I've heard that you displayed your skills in the Thousand River Secret Realm and won 2 treasures for our Haoran sect. This is beneficial for all members of our sect. I, as your senior sister, must also thank you for your contribution." "Senior sister, you're being too serious." Jiang Chengxuan immediately shook his head with a smile. "This achievement wasn't solely my doing. Other senior brothers and sisters also played a crucial role. Without them, it would have been difficult for me to obtain those 2 treasures." Hee, junior brother, you're really humble." Hong Mei giggled. She could not help but have a better impression of this legendary junior brother. She was well aware that the Haoran sect's gains from the recent venture into the Thousand River Secret Realm were largely thanks to Jiang Chengxuan's efforts, with some assistance from his partner, Shen Ruyan. Truthfully, the contributions from others were minimal in comparison. Yet Jiang Chengxuan chose not to monopolize the credit, generously including everyone's efforts. To be honest, this action was very commendable. "This visit of yours is to assume the role of an elder in our Haoran sect, correct?" Hong Mei eventually brought up the main subject. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded in agreement. "Indeed, now that my cultivation has reached void returning, according to the sect's rules, I am here to assume the position of an elder." "All right, follow me then," Hong Mei said with a smile, turning to lead the way into the elders' hall. Jiang Chengxuan promptly followed. Junior brother Jiang, as you probably know, any Haoran sect cultivator who breaks through to void returning automatically becomes an elder of our sect, Hong Mei said, smiling at Jiang Chengxuan as they walked. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "I'm aware of this, but I'm not sure about the process involved in becoming an elder. Also, are there specific duties I need to fulfill once I become an elder?" "The process is simple. You just need to enter your identity information into the Haoran sect's elders' hall system. Then everyone will be notified of the new elder's induction. Additionally, as an elder, you'll receive certain benefits each year, including 100 heavenly crystals and various spiritual herbs and pills. You'll be fully informed of all details once your information is recorded," Hong Mei explained as they continued on their way. "As for your duties, they are what we, as elders of the Haoran sect, are obliged to do. Every 500 years, we have to go on a mission, because our Haoran sect controls a very wide territory. So, these once every 500-year missions are mostly related to guarding. Duties. Guarding duties. Jiang Chengxuan was somewhat surprised. Hong Mei nodded and said, "Yes, indeed, guarding duties are quite common, but you don't need to worry. Usually there's nothing much happening with such tasks, and you can stay in your guarding cave abode to cultivate. Only when an issue arises that even peak soul formation cultivators cannot resolve will those responsible for guarding be alerted. Moreover, since you've just broken through to void returning, you won't need to undertake any missions for the next 200 years. Just focus on cultivating and consolidating your realm." This was also a form of care from the Haoran sect towards newly advanced elders. After all, having just advanced to void returning, some might not be fully familiar with the various techniques and divine powers of this realm. So, the sect deliberately gave them 200 years to get acquainted with and master them. "I see." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. It was undeniable that the Haoran sect was very considerate. Although his situation no longer required such a consolidation period, having 200 years of leisure time allowed him to learn many things he had never learned before. "Yes, this is the place." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei had already arrived at a hall. In front of the hall, a remarkable mirror was hanging. The surface of the mirror shimmered with strands of mysterious light. Jiang Chengxuan felt a wave of fatigue from his primordial spirit upon gazing at it for a while. Fortunately, the vast heaven divine Jade in his sea of consciousness suddenly emitted a glow. In an instant, the fatigue that originated from the primordial spirit was immediately wiped clean. Hong Mei immediately looked at him in surprise and could not help but say, "Junior brother Jiang, your primordial spirit is so strong. You weren't affected by the Haoran mirror." "The Haoran mirror?" Jiang Chengxuan showed a hint of confusion. He had clearly felt a profound weariness from his primordial spirit after looking at the mirror for a moment. If not for the vast heaven divine Jade clearing this fatigue, he might not have recovered so quickly. To be honest, this mirror is one of our Haoran sect's ultimate treasures and the final test for all who come here. With the myriad of profound techniques in the world, it's impossible to ensure that no one with ulterior motives infiltrates the sect. This is an issue that concerns every sect. As elders are the core of a sect, allowing such individuals into the elders hall could pose a significant threat. So, we brought a clone of our sect's ultimate treasure to guard this place. Clearly, Jiang Junior brother, you've just passed the final test. Upon hearing Hong Mei's explanation, Jiang Chengxuan was somewhat astonished. He hadn't expected the Haoran sect's ultimate treasure, the Haoran mirror, to be present in the Elders' Hall, and this was only a clone of it. How powerful then must its true form be? What happens here if someone with ulterior motives is detected? Jiang Chengxuan suddenly asked. Hong Mei smiled and said, "If such individuals are detected, the Haoran treasure mirror won't merely show the reaction you experienced, but will directly attack the person. At the very least, it will blast them out of the Elders' Hall. Even though this is just a clone of our ultimate treasure, its power is no less than that of the Tao Integration Holy Lord." Not less powerful than a Tao Integration Holy Lord, Jiang Chengxuan was genuinely shocked. He had personally witnessed the strength of a Tao Integration Holy Lord. Compared to them, the celestial radiant stage and profound mystery stage of the void returning realm was nothing. Yet the clone of the Haoran treasure mirror here possessed such terrifying strength. He truly couldn't imagine just how terrifying it would be if it was its true body. Buzz. Just then, a jade token floated down from the Haoran treasure mirror. Hong Mei's beautiful eyes immediately lit up. She stepped forward to pick up the jade token and then smilingly handed it to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, "Here, junior brother Jiang, this is your unique elder jade token. The Haoran treasure mirror has already recorded your identity information. From now on, you are a void returning elder of our Haoran sect." "Is it that quick?" Jiang Chengxuan was visibly surprised. He hadn't expected that becoming an elder of the Haoran sect and recording his identity information would be so simple. As if seeing through his thoughts, Hong Mei smiled lightly and said, "Junior brother Jiang, did you think the process would be complicated? The Haoran treasure mirror is not an ordinary treasure. In its presence, many things become very simple. You will gradually understand this in the future. By the way, At this point, Hong Mei seemed to remember something. She took out a jade scroll from her body and handed it to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, "Junior brother Jiang, this jade scroll contains basic information about all the elders of our Heoran sect. You can get to know them. Additionally, at the end of the scroll, it also lists some current elder missions of our sect. When you have time, you can also get acquainted with them in advance." After receiving the jade scroll from Hong Mei, Jiang Chengxuan quickly browsed through it, then smiled and nodded at her, saying, "Thank you, senior sister Hong Mei, for all your help this time. We are all fellow disciples of the same sect. Why be so formal?" Hong Mei smiled and shook her head. "By the way, there will be a gathering of the elders of our Heoran sect in 100 years. If you are free at that time, you can go and participate." A gathering of the elders of the Heoran sect. "That's right." Hong Mei nodded. "These elder gatherings are regularly organized by our Heoran sect. Firstly, it allows us elders to interact with each other, fostering relationships and discussing cultivation. Secondly, these gatherings also provide a platform for mutual exchanges. Given that each elder has accumulated a significant number of treasures, there might be items they don't need. Exchanging these items at the gathering benefits everyone." After hearing Hong Mei's explanation about the gathering, Jiang Chengxuan nodded in understanding. "If I'm available at that time, I will attend." Following their conversation, Jiang Chengxuan bid farewell to Hong Mei and headed towards the Heoran sect's treasure vault. He hadn't forgotten the token given to him by his shifu, Qin Shenwu, which would allow him to select 3 treasures useful for his current cultivation. The elder in charge of the treasure vault, a void-returning divine lord at the profound mystery stage, was quite courteous towards Jiang Chengxuan. Soon, the elder led Jiang Chengxuan into the vault and handed him a list of items he could exchange for. Jiang Chengxuan took the name list and looked at it carefully. After carefully reviewing the list, Jiang Chengxuan returned it to the elder and chose 3 treasures from the treasure vault: the dragon god fruit, the heaven rain flower, and the law origin spirit apricot. The dragon god fruit could enhance his physical body, which would be greatly beneficial for his future body tempering. The heaven rain flower could purify his void-returning dharmic power, helping him improve his cultivation. The law origin spirit apricot was a spiritual item that could strengthen his dharma form. Everyone knew that after a cultivator reached void returning, their first major hurdle was to strengthen their primordial spirit dharma form. Only when your primordial spirit dharma form grew to a certain extent would it have the ability to fuse with the world. So, in the first stage of void returning, a cultivator's main focus was on strengthening the primordial spirit. Therefore, each void-returning cultivator would choose a primordial spirit cultivation method suitable for themselves. While strengthening the primordial spirit, they could also master the corresponding dharma form divine power. In other words, it was the attack method targeting specifically the dharma form. So, after leaving the treasure vault, Jiang Chengxuan headed straight to the Heoran Sect Sutra Pavilion. With the merits he had accumulated, most of the scriptures were open to him without charge. He had already decided on his choice before arriving. It was a primordial spirit refinement technique called the 5 Elements Divine Technique. It was also one of the most profound primordial spirit refinement techniques in the Heoran sect. This method continued the way of the 5 elements. During cultivation, one must create 5 elemental spirits within the primordial spirit and integrate them into the Dharma form. Only then would the Dharma form truly embody the way of the 5 elements, which held extraordinary significance for Tao integration in the future. So, the 5 Elements Divine Technique was a crucial technique that Jiang Chengxuan needed to cultivate. It was also a technique that his shifu, Qin Shenwu, insisted he must cultivate. In addition to the 5 Elements Divine Technique, Jiang Chengxuan chose 2 other techniques from the Sutra Pavilion, not for primordial spirit but divine powers related to primordial spirit, named Cloud Piercer and Illusionary Heaven Bell. The former was an extremely powerful attack technique on the Dharma form. If the Dharma form created by the primordial spirit was not strong enough, it could be directly shattered by this Cloud Piercer technique. The main challenge lies in the difficulty of mastering this technique, which required a profound level of primordial spirit cultivation. The Illusionary Heaven Bell, on the other hand, was a technique for bewildering and enchanting. Once mastered, it could release a bell sound capable of confusing all primordial spirits, causing them to fall into endless illusions, unable to extricate themselves until the primordial spirits collapsed. This technique was also difficult to master but incredibly powerful and effective. Assuming there were no unexpected issues, cultivating the primordial spirit would become Jiang Chengxuan's most important focus for the time being. After leaving the Sutra Pavilion, Jiang Chengxuan didn't go anywhere else. In a blink, he returned to his own cave abode. Upon returning, he didn't rush to cultivate the 5 elements divine technique, but first took out the 3 treasures he obtained from the treasure vault: the dragon god fruit, heaven rain flower, and law origin spirit apricot. He decided to use the limited time to raise his dharmic powers and physical cultivation to a level that was difficult to further improve. And this took 40 years. 40 years later, Jiang Chengxuan's physical body had impressively reached the mid-stage of level 7. However, since he hadn't cultivated his Dharma form to a certain extent, his cultivation at the Dharma form stage didn't see much improvement. Despite this, Jiang Chengxuan's strength had more than doubled compared to before he started his cultivation. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had already taken out the Jade slip related to the 5 elements divine technique. At the same time, a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! System mission issued. Host, please complete the cultivation of the 5 elements divine technique. To be honest, Jiang Chengxuan was a little surprised by this notification. He did not expect that this primordial spirit cultivation technique he took out would actually cause the system to react. Moreover, the task it issued was for him to complete the cultivation of the 5 elements divine technique. This meant that to fulfill this system task, he at least needed to master the basics of this technique. It seemed that he wouldn't have time to attend the upcoming elder gathering. After all, cultivating the 5 elements divine technique would require a significant amount of his time. Furthermore, after mastering the 5 elements divine technique, Jiang Chengxuan planned to try and comprehend Cloud Piercer and Illusionary Heaven Bell. If he could master one or both of these techniques before his next mission, it would significantly enhance his strength. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan began to focus on cultivating the 5 elements divine technique. And so, Jiang Chengxuan began to delve deeply into the cultivation of the 5 elements divine technique. As he immersed himself in this cultivation, Shen Ruyan in Thunderclap Valley had also passed the 3 tribulations, ascending to the status of Void Returning Divine Lord. Thunderclap Valley's Valley Master, Yun Yizhen, rewarded her accordingly, and she was arranged to become an elder of the valley. My husband hasn't replied to my message. Shen Ruyan, checking her communication talisman and pondering a bit, roughly understood the reason. It seems my husband must be in seclusion, cultivating a new primordial spirit technique. After all, the primordial spirit technique we cultivated before is somewhat insufficient after coming to this spiritual realm. I wonder how he's doing now. I need to diligently cultivate too, hoping to surprise him the next time we meet. With these thoughts flashing through her mind, Shen Ruyan chose her cultivation method and re-entered her own seclusion chamber. And so seasons changed, and years passed in the blink of an eye. By this time, Jiang Chengxuan had already mastered the basics of the 5 elements divine technique, incorporating the essence of the 5 elements into his Dharma form. The moment he successfully mastered the basics of the 5 elements divine technique, a notification from the system echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully completing the cultivation of the 5 elements divine technique and receiving a bottle of Dharma form primordial spirit pill. Dharma form primordial spirit pill. Consuming this pill will significantly enhance your Dharma, and it will also double the efficiency of understanding various primordial spirit techniques. Jiang Chengxuan hadn't expected such a reward from the system, which came just in time. With only 50 years left before he had to choose a mission from the mission hall, this bottle of pills might allow him to advance his realm further. There was even a chance to master either Cloud Piercer or Illusionary Heaven Bell using this pill. Thinking this, Jiang Chengxuan didn't hesitate and immediately took out the bottle of pills from the system space. The pill, 12 in total, was black and white in color. Upon consuming one, he immediately felt an extremely cool sensation in his primordial spirit, and his mind became unprecedentedly clear. In this state, cultivating primordial spirit techniques was indeed most suitable. Thus, he wasted no time and began to focus on cultivating the 5 elements divine technique, while also trying to comprehend Cloud Piercer. 30 years later, Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation had broken through from the early stage of the Dharma form stage to the middle stage. His Dharma form, transformed from his primordial spirit, had also improved several times on its original basis. Most importantly, during these 30 years, he had managed to comprehend Cloud Piercer, mastering this primordial spirit attack method. With about 20 years left, it probably won't be enough time to also comprehend Illusionary Heaven Bell. Instead of spending time on that, it's better to continue delving into Cloud Piercer, aiming to take this primordial spirit attack method to the next level in these 20 years. This thought flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's mind. In the next moment, he began to comprehend the Cloud Piercer again. At the same time, in the Elders' Hall, several elders at the profound mystery stage were discussing matters. One of the elders, a white-haired old man, spoke. Recently, the demons and deep-sea nomads have been probing our human borders incessantly. Particularly, our heavenly edge immortal city, guarded by our Haoran sect, has been attacked multiple times. Junior brother Chang Ming and junior sister Fan Xian have sent multiple messages to our elders' hall, indicating that with their current strength, there's a high possibility the city will fall. They need immediate reinforcement from our elders' hall. In my opinion, a city like Heavenly Edge Immortal City, at the very least, requires the presence of a celestial radiant stage cultivator. What are your thoughts? Hearing the white-haired elder's suggestion, the other profound mystery stage elders nodded in agreement. A red-haired man agreed. I concur with Elder Yuan Feng. Given the current situation, a place like Heavenly Edge Immortal City indeed requires a celestial radiant stage cultivator. Otherwise, just having a junior brother or sister in the Dharma form stage would be very stressful. Moreover, I suggest that, along with sending a celestial radiant stage cultivator, it would be best to also send 1 or 2 Dharma form cultivators for support. I second that. I second that too. Soon, the consensus was reached among the elders to recall the 2 Dharma form stage cultivators currently stationed at Heavenly Edge Immortal City, and send a celestial radiant stage cultivator, along with 2 Dharma form cultivators for reinforcement. 20 years flew by in the blink of an eye. When Jiang Chengxuan concluded his seclusion, he had made further progress in comprehending the Cloud Piercer technique. With this level of mastery, he could instantly eliminate some Dharma form stage cultivators who lacked significant achievements in primordial spirit cultivation. Of course, this was also partly because Cloud Piercer was a top-tier primordial spirit attack method. At this moment, just as Jiang Chengxuan stepped out of his seclusion chamber, his identity token suddenly lit up with a faint glow. Ah, it's a message from the Elder Hall. Jiang Chengxuan was slightly surprised. The Elder Hall has asked me to come over. They mentioned there's something relatively important they want to discuss with me. Jiang Chengxuan pondered for a moment, but didn't hesitate for too long. He decided to head to the Elder Hall immediately. His 200 years of peaceful cultivation had just ended, and his cultivation had also reached a new stage. It was about time for him to undertake a mission. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan left Cloud Mist Peak. A short while later, he arrived at the Elder's Hall. Upon arriving, Jiang Chengxuan noticed that several people had already gathered there, including Hong Mei, whom he had met 200 years ago. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei's eyes lit up. She quickly approached him and greeted, Junior brother Jiang, long time no see. It seems your cultivation has progressed. Ha, you flatter me, senior sister Hong Mei. Jiang Chengxuan responded modestly with a smile. By the way, senior sister Hong Mei, do you know why the Elders' Hall specifically asked us to come? Hong Mei shook her head uncertainly. I'm not entirely sure about the details. However, from what I've heard, it might be related to a frontier guarding mission. A frontier guarding mission. Jiang Chengxuan felt a slight jolt in his heart. He knew that in the entire celestial floodgate realm, the human was the dominant race. However, it didn't mean they were the sole rulers. Many other races were in opposition to the humans, such as the demons, the deep-sea nomads, and the protos, among others. Even though these races couldn't match humanity's strength in the celestial floodgate realm, their unity made them a significant force that posed a certain threat to humanity. If things were as Hong Mei mentioned, then the Elders' Hall summoning them, the void returning elders, might indeed be for this reason. At this moment, As more void-returning elders entered the hall, they greeted Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei, who responded courteously in turn. Despite Jiang Chengxuan not recognizing most of the attendees, his fame within the Haoran sect from his feats in the Thousand River Secret Realm had made him widely recognized. Therefore, when everyone saw him, they all recognized him. Even if Jiang Chengxuan couldn't completely recognize his fellow disciples, he still had to be at least polite. Fortunately, Hong Mei was by his side. Hong Mei secretly introduced some of the elders he did not know. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan got to know many people. At that instant, two extremely powerful auras suddenly appeared in the elders' hall. The voices of the elders who were originally discussing slowly quietened down. Everyone turned to look. In front of them, two figures were already standing quietly. One of them was the white-haired old man, and the other was the red-haired man. Many people present recognized the two of them and immediately cupped their fists politely. Greetings, Senior Brother Yuan Feng. Greetings, Senior Brother Kai Yan. Yuan Feng and Kai Yan nodded at the crowd. Then the white-haired elder, Elder Yuan Feng, said, Junior brothers and sisters, Junior Brother Kai Yan, and I called you over this time because we have a relatively important mission to arrange for you. Hearing Elder Yuan Feng's words, everyone present remained silent. They knew that Elder Yuan Feng and Elder Kai Yan definitely had more to say. Indeed, Elder Yuan Feng continued, recently, some of the borders guarded by the Haoran sect have been attacked one after another. Especially Heavenly Edge Immortal City, Cloudy Sky Immortal City, Green Bamboo Immortal City, and so on. Almost all of these attacks came from the demons and the deep-sea nomads. In order to ensure that the human border guarded by the Haoran sect would not be breached by those fellows. So, Junior Brother Kai Yan, I, and the other senior brothers and sisters have decided to mobilize the defenses of those immortal cities. At the same time, we will send more people. As he spoke, Elder Yuan Feng looked up at everyone present again. Here, I hope that all of you can bear this responsibility. I wonder if everyone has any objections. Hearing this, everyone present, including Jiang Chengxuan, shook their heads. They knew very well that what Elder Yuan Feng said had already touched the fundamental principles of their Haoran sect. Under such circumstances, the only thing they needed to do was to listen to the arrangements. Jiang Chengxuan was no exception. That was because this was the decision of the entire Elders' Hall. Even his Shifu, Qin Shenwu, could not interfere easily without special reasons. After all, a sect and a family had their own rules. Since Qin Shenwu and the other supreme elders had entrusted the authority to deal with the sect's matters to the Elders' Hall, then, if there were no special circumstances, he naturally could not interfere casually. At this moment, Elder Kai Yan, who was beside Elder Yuan Feng, said, Since no one has any objection, Senior Brother Yuan Feng and I will start making arrangements. As he spoke, he began to mention names one by one. Junior Brother Chen Fan, as a celestial radiant stage cultivator, you will be in charge of guarding the Green Bamboo Immortal City. In addition, Zai Yun and Shan Xing will be in charge of cooperating with Junior Brother Chen Fan. A man with a resolute face immediately cupped his fists and accepted the order. Yes, Senior Brother Kai Yan. Then Elder Kai Yan looked at the others and continued to make arrangements. Finally, his gaze turned to a refined middle-aged man present. Junior Brother Wen Tao, as a celestial radiance cultivator, you'll be in charge of guarding Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Also, Junior Brother Jiang and Junior Sister Hong Mei, you two will be responsible for cooperating with Junior Brother Wen Tao. How about that? Towards the end, Senior Brother Kai Yan's gaze turned to Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei. Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Elder Wen Tao all nodded solemnly. We have no objections. All right, so let's settle on this decision for now. Elder Yuan Feng spoke slowly. Everyone, the time limit for guarding is 300 years. 300 years later, there will be other junior brothers and sisters who will come to assist you in defense. Some time later, Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Elder Wen Tao all walked out of the Elders' Hall. When they arrived outside, Elder Wen Tao immediately turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei with a smile. Junior Brother Jiang and Junior Sister Hong Mei. In the next 300 years, we will have to take care of each other. You're too kind, Senior Brother Wen Tao. It's us who need your care, Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei immediately smiled. Wen Tao chuckled. All right, let's waste no time. Since the Elders Hall has assigned us this mission, if there's nothing else, we'll set off for Heavenly Edge Immortal City now. Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei looked at each other and nodded in unison. All right. As they spoke, the three of them turned into beams of light and headed out of the Haoran sect. Before long, the three arrived at a teleportation array. Although this teleportation array couldn't directly send them to Heavenly Edge Immortal City, it could save them a great deal of journey and time. Buzz. As the array light lit up, Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao quickly disappeared. When they appeared again, they had already arrived at a place filled with the smell of the sea. Wen Tao came down from the array platform and smiled at the two of them. Junior brother Jiang, this should be your first time here, right? What about junior sister Hong Mei? Have you been here before? Or rather, have you ever been to Heavenly Edge Immortal City? Hong Mei smiled and shook her head. To be honest, senior brother Wen, this is my first time here. I've never been here before, nor have I been to the Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Junior brother Jiang, you should be the same, right? Yes, indeed, I've never been here. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. It seems like I'm the only one who has been to this place before. Wen Tao smiled. The Heavenly Edge Immortal City is an immortal city located on the sea. It's at the border between our human race and the deep-sea nomads, and it's an important defense line against the invasion of the deep-sea nomads. In addition, it's a trading place for various races. Because it's built on the sea, there was a fishy smell in a radius of 1,000,000 miles. From here, it's about 800,000 miles to Heavenly Edge Immortal City. With our speed, we should be able to reach it soon. Indeed, at their level of cultivation, there was not much difference between a few 100,000 miles and 1,000,000 miles. In less than half a day, the outline of a huge city appeared in Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao's vision. Just the city walls alone were 1,000,000 feet tall. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of kilometers it covered. Its entire body flickered with extremely dazzling spiritual light. There was also a top-level 7 defensive array as the foundation of this city. Even cultivators in the profound mystery stage would not be able to break through the city in a short period of time. Jiang Chengxuan and the other two continued forward. When they arrived outside the city wall, dozens of figures immediately appeared. Those figures were all at least at the soul formation realm. Wen Tao took out a token from his body and said to those people, "We are here to replace junior brother Chang Ming and others for the defense duty. Please call them over." Seeing the token that Wen Tao took out and hearing his words, the expressions of the soul formation cultivators present could not help but tighten. All of them immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, Martial Uncles. We will immediately go and inform Martial Uncle Chang Ming and Martial Uncle Fan Xian." After a short while, a man and a woman appeared on the Heavenly Edge Immortal City. When they saw Wen Tao, their faces lit up. "It's senior brother Wen Tao. Hurry up. Quickly open the array and let senior brother Wen Tao and the others in." Buzz. With the activation of the array, Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao quickly entered Heavenly Edge Immortal City. The two void-returning elders called Chang Ming and Fan Xian immediately arrived in front of them. The female cultivator called Fan Xian smiled and said, "Senior brother Chang Ming and I have been waiting for you. Now that senior brother Wen Tao is here, no matter how the demons and deep-sea nomads scheme, they won't pose a threat to our city anymore. Junior brothers and sisters, you flatter me." Wen Tao smiled and nodded. Then his expression turned slightly solemn. He looked at the two of them and said seriously, "Junior brother Chang Ming, junior sister Fan Xian, tell us in detail about the current situation in Heavenly Edge Immortal City." This was also the first thing they needed to figure out. After all, messages couldn't encompass all the details. There were some things that had to be discussed in person. Chang Ming and Fan Xian looked at each other. Their expression became serious. Chang Ming said, "So far, the demons and the deep-sea nomads have already launched many probing attacks on our Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Fortunately, our Heavenly Edge Immortal City has a top-level 7 defensive array. They did not pose any substantial threat to our city. However, not long ago, the demons and deep-sea nomads dispatched celestial radiance combatants. While they still haven't been able to pose too much of a threat to our city. With our strengths, we are somewhat apprehensive. This is also the main reason why we sent a message to the sect. Then the two of them continued to talk about the situation. After Jiang Chengxuan, Hongmei, and Wen Tao had basically figured out the situation here, they began to take over the defense of this immortal city. Chang Ming and Fan Xian did not stay any longer. After bidding farewell to Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao, they left Heavenly Edge Immortal City and returned to the Heoran sect. Junior brother Jiang, junior sister Hong Mei, given the current situation, the three of us will take turns in defending the city. At this moment, Wen Tao could not help but turn to Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei with a smile. Hearing his words, Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei smiled and replied, "Everything is up to senior brother Wen Tao." Wen Tao smiled and nodded. "Since the sect has assigned me to lead the defense of this city, I will make the arrangements. Given the time duration of our guarding here, let's take turns every 30 years. I'll take charge of the first 30 years of defense. Next, junior sister Hong Mei will take over, and the last 30 years will be junior brother Jiang's responsibility. What do you think of this arrangement?" "I have no objections." "I have no objections either." Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei shook their heads. "All right, then let's do it this way. If anything happens during this period, I will inform you immediately, sometime later." Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei bid farewell to him for the time being. The two of them each found a cave abode in the Heavenly Edge Immortal City and stayed there. Now that they had nothing to do, they could use this time to understand Heavenly Edge Immortal City and the surrounding situation. At the same time, they could take the time to cultivate. At the same time, about 100,000 miles away from Heavenly Edge Immortal City, several powerful figures stood in the air, looking towards the distant Immortal City. One of the burly men in black spoke, "Everyone, are all our forces ready? If there are no unexpected developments, we will launch a full-scale attack on Heavenly Edge Immortal City in 10 years. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan had settled down in his own cave, abode within Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Taking advantage of the fact that there was nothing else to do, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out the jade slip of the illusionary heaven bell and began to comprehend it. The greatest feature of this secret technique was its ability to use the primordial spirit to create illusions, dragging the opponent into the illusions unknowingly. Previously, Jiang Chengxuan had been preoccupied with studying the cloud piercer, so he hadn't had much time to research the illusionary heaven bell. Now that he had arrived at Heavenly Edge Immortal City, as a void-returning divine lord in charge of defending the city, he actually didn't have much to do, which gave him the time to study the illusionary heaven bell. Whether it was because he had cultivated the 5 elements divine technique, or because he had consumed the law origin spirit apricot, or perhaps because he had mastered the cloud piercer, his efficiency in studying the illusionary heaven bell was surprisingly high. In just 8 years, he had already mastered the basics of the illusionary heaven bell. This was enough to pose a substantial threat to most void-returning divine lords, unless the opponent had cultivated a similar defensive primordial spirit secret technique. Otherwise, detecting the invasion of this illusion-type secret technique would be incredibly difficult. Just as Jiang Chengxuan successfully mastered the illusionary heaven bell to early stage, about 100,000 miles away from Heavenly Edge Immortal City, on the sea, several figures wrapped in arrays were already cutting through the waves, charging towards Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Behind them followed thousands of demons and deep-sea nomads, each with formidable auras, clearly not ordinary cultivators. "Black Dragon Warlock, there won't be any problems this time, right?" Among the crowd, a sea man with blue scales on his face and over a meter tall looked towards a slightly shorter figure in a black robe beside him. The man in the black robe chuckled, "Gusa, you can rest assured. This time, I have brought my race's treasure, the Furious Dragon Tower. As long as those two who are in charge of guarding Heavenly Edge Immortal City are still the same, I can assure that we will definitely be able to break through their defensive array." Hearing this, Gusa, the scaled man, finally relaxed a bit on his originally stern face. "So, you've even brought out your own spiritual treasure this time. With this treasure, as long as there are no celestial radiant stage cultivators in Heavenly Edge Immortal City, breaking through their defensive array is only a matter of time. Black Dragon, it seems this time your demon race has truly shown some sincerity." Black Dragon Warlock smiled. "Of course, You should know that both our races have been preparing for this for so long. This time, we must make the human race suffer a great loss, to avenge the death of my son from years ago." As he said this, a fierce light flashed in the eyes of the Black Dragon Warlock. Soon, their group had reached within 10,000 miles of Heavenly Edge Immortal City. If they continued forward, even if they had arrays covering their bodies, there was a high chance that they would be discovered by the surveillance array in Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Black Dragon Warlock could not help but look at Gussa and say, "Brother Gussa, your sea tribe is quite adept at concealment. Didn't you bring any treasures that could better mask your presence?" "Hee, Brother Black Dragon, be patient." Gussa could not help but smile. Soon he raised his hand and flipped it. A bead emitting a deep blue light appeared in his palm. What is this?" Black Dragon Warlock's eyes suddenly focused. Gussa chuckled and said, "This is my sea tribe's concealment treasure, the heaven-deceiving pearl. I can't guarantee it for very close distances, but using it, getting within 1,000 miles should pose no significant problem." 1,000 miles. Black Dragon Warlock was visibly excited. 1,000 miles is already enough for us to launch a full-scale attack. Haha, it seems that Heavenly Edge Immortal City is destined to fall into our hands this time. Black Dragon Warlock laughed heartily. As they spoke, the group continued forward. When their figures were about to reach 1,000 miles away, Black Dragon Warlock and Gussa could not help but look at each other. The next moment, the two celestial radiant stage powerhouses no longer concealed their presence at all. Their terrifying aura instantly spread out. At the same time, Black Dragon Warlock let out a furious roar. His originally short body instantly expanded to 1,000 feet tall. From its mouth, it spat out a dragon-shaped pagoda that was filled with endless flames. It was the spiritual treasure, the Furious Dragon Tower. Instantly, countless giant dragons appeared in the sky, launching a fierce assault towards Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Gussa was not idle either. He raised his hand and grabbed. There was a buzz. A giant steel trident thousands of feet long suddenly lifted raging waves, charging towards the entire Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Inside Heavenly Edge Immortal City, Wen Tao, who was responsible for the defense, suddenly sensed the change in the chi of heaven and earth, his expression changing immediately. Especially when he looked up to see countless giant dragons and endless raging waves surging towards their city, a coldness appeared on his face. "Black Dragon Warlock, Gus of the Deep-Sea Nomads, how dare you!" With an angry shout. In an instant, Wen Tao's height increased from the height of a person to the size of thousands of feet. One of his eyes seemed like a star in the sky, emitting an extremely terrifying pressure. His hand, larger than numerous mountains, reached out gently and grabbed. With a series of thunderous booms, the countless fire dragons and endless waves disintegrated under his grasp. This was the primordial spirit Dharma form he had cultivated, known as the astral power Dharma form. With every gesture, he could harness the power of the stars above the sky. "What?" Black Dragon Warlock and Gussa, who were full of confidence, suddenly saw the Dharma form that was 1,000,000 feet tall. Their pupils constricted, and their expressions changed drastically. "Not good. It's the Haoran Sect's celestial star Divine Lord, Wen Tao. Damn it, why is he here? When did he come here? Why didn't we receive any news beforehand? Damn it, damn it, damn it." Black Dragon Warlock and Gussa were both somewhat frantic and frustrated. They were well aware that with Wen Tao, a cultivator of the celestial radiant stage present, the difficulty of breaching Heavenly Edge Immortal City had undoubtedly increased more than tenfold. "Brother Black Dragon." Gus's expression was very ugly. At this moment, he was uncertain whether they should continue with their plan. If they proceeded, the losses for their side were foreseeable. But if they decided not to continue, having come all this way only to retreat in a miserable state, was also something they were reluctant to accept. "Brother Gussa, now that things have come to this, do we have any other choice?" Black Dragon Warlock suddenly turned to look in the direction of Heavenly Edge Immortal City. There, the astral power Dharma form transformed by Wen Tao had firmly locked onto them. "You've gone too far." A fierce look appeared in Gus's eyes. "Since the other party wants to play, Brother Black Dragon, let's play with them." As he spoke, behind Gussa, a Dharma form similarly towering 100,000 feet in height suddenly condensed. It was a terrifying sea demon with 3 heads and 6 arms. Each arm held a weapon: a trident, a long saber, a giant hammer, or an iron chain. And these weapons would continuously change according to his will. Roar! At the same time, behind the massive true form of Black Dragon Warlock, a dark sun slowly emerged. The entire sky at this moment seemed to be covered by a vast black shadow, involuntarily invoking boundless fear in anyone who saw it. It was Black Dragon Warlock's Dharma form, the Dark Sun Dharma form. HMPH. Wen Tao snorted coldly. In the next moment, powerful spiritual chi surged on his huge astral power Dharma form. In the sky, countless sword shadows that flickered with cold light suddenly appeared. It was Wen Tao who had activated the power of their Heavenly Edge Immortal City's protective array, the Taiji Sword Array. Instantly, fierce howling sounds erupted throughout the sky. The terrifying fluctuations instantly spread over millions of miles. It's known that cultivators, upon breaking through to void returning, possess the power to annihilate stars with a single move. And this was merely the capability at the Dharma form stage. Upon reaching the celestial radiance stage, their might was unquestionably even more fearsome. At this moment, the entire heaven and earth were shaking violently. The sea surrounding Heavenly Edge Immortal City whipped up into what seemed like 100-level gales, instantly stirring up waves hundreds of thousands of feet high, as if intending to destroy the whole world. The scene was terrifying to the extreme. Such a massive commotion naturally could not go unnoticed by Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei within Heavenly Edge Immortal City. By this time, they had already gathered beside Wen Tao, watching the battle outside the city with very grave expressions. Junior brother Jiang, junior sister Hong Mei, leave the celestial radiant stage cultivators of the demons and sea nomads to me. The rest of the Dharma form stage cultivators are yours to handle. Remember, do not stray from the range of the array. Once you attract the attention of Black Dragon Warlock and the Gussa, you might be in mortal danger, Wen Tao said seriously. Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei understood that opponents of the celestial radiant stage were not something they could contend with at the moment. Although Jiang Chengxuan felt that with his strength, he could put up a fight even against celestial radiant stage opponents, there was no need to take such a risk at this juncture. Since Wen Tao had expressed confidence in handling those two, they would leave it to him and focus on the remaining Dharma form stage cultivators. Junior brother Jiang, let's take one side each, Hong Mei suggested, indicating his side and then her own. Jiang Chengxuan nodded in agreement. All right, no problem. With that, Jiang Chengxuan flew towards his designated area. Not far from him, 2 Dharma form stage cultivators from the deep-sea nomads were furiously attacking the protective array of Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Jiang Chengxuan's gaze immediately turned cold. His body swayed. A Dharma form true body that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall instantly appeared behind him, resembling him but radiating a dense aura of the 5 elements. This was his Dharma form transformed by his primordial spirit, the 5 elements Dharma form. He waved his hand, and endless flames poured down from the sky. Each flame was infused with explosively potent elements. As these flames collided with the 2 deep-sea nomad cultivators at the Dharma form stage, they instantly erupted in intense explosions. Rumble! Gigantic mushroom clouds soared into the sky. The expressions of the 2 deep-sea nomad Dharma form cultivators changed drastically. This power, before they could react, an even more terrifying scene unfolded. Giant mountains, each tens of thousands of feet tall, descended from the sky like cannonballs, crushing down on them with a fearsome might, causing the pupils of the 2 deep-sea nomad cultivators to shrink sharply. Damn it! In an instant, gigantic figures emerged behind the 2. An enormous water dragon soared from the sea surface, roaring and howling as they met the descending mountains. Boom, boom, boom! Dense clouds of dust momentarily obscured the sky over countless miles. Many cultivators within Heavenly Edge Immortal City were unable to clearly see the battle unfolding, yet they could distinctly feel the terrifying pressure emanating from the clash of void-returning divine lords. At this moment, a glaring golden line suddenly sliced through the dense fog. Above the vast sea, a Dharma form adorned with sharp fangs, covered in black scales, and surrounded by endless surging waves, standing tens of thousands of zhang tall, was suddenly cleaved in half. Then with a whoosh, that Dharma form dissipated into specks of light and scattered away. What? This scene immediately shocked the two deep-sea nomad cultivators engaged in battle with Jiang Chengxuan, especially the brown-haired man whose Dharma form had been severed. His eyes were filled with an intense and indissoluble shock. It must be known that the Dharma form he had condensed had been cultivated for 30,000 years. Whether in terms of magical powers, strength, or defense, it was considered top-tier within cultivators of the Dharma form stage. Yet, the result was so unexpected. Kai kai kai. At that moment, three massive intersecting golden lines suddenly appeared again. Another Dharma form, this one with wings on its back and enveloped by endless waves, standing tens of thousands of zhang tall, abruptly froze in midair. Hell! The expression of the hawk-nosed man changed drastically. Before he could act, his Dharma form in the sky dissipated into countless light spots, just like the brown-haired man's Dharma form had. While losing a Dharma form doesn't result in the fall of a void-returning cultivator, the Dharma form represents the manifestation of the primordial spirit. Without it, it's akin to losing an arm, significantly reducing both strength and combat capabilities. Ding, ding, ding. Suddenly, a series of bell sounds that existed only at the level of the primordial spirit rang in the ears of both the brown-haired and the hawk-nosed men. Initially, they didn't feel much, but as the bell sounds intensified, their gazes gradually became glazed. To outsiders, they appeared to have suddenly frozen in place. They were motionless. They failed to awaken from the bell's illusion, even as Jiang Chengxuan's attack approached. PFF, PFF. Brilliant slashes of light swept across, and the bodies of the brown-haired and hawk-nosed men were shredded into nothingness. Two void-returning divine lords fell, drawing the immediate attention of everyone present. A void-returning divine lord was the backbone in any sect or family, and the sudden fall of two such individuals caused Gussa, who was battling Wen Tao, a great deal of distress. His gaze swiftly turned towards Jiang Chengxuan, his face showing intense killing intent. "You shall die." As he spoke, several weapons in the hands of his three-headed, six-armed Dharma form transformed into rainbow lights, launching an attack on Jiang Chengxuan. However, he seemed to forget that Jiang Chengxuan was within the protective array of Heavenly Edge Immortal City. With the array still intact, it was nearly impossible for Gussa to harm, let alone threaten Jiang Chengxuan's life. There were two booms. Jiang Chengxuan simply utilized a small portion of the array's power to block Gussa's attack. This only fueled Gussa's rage further. Yet his current opponent wasn't Jiang Chengxuan but Wen Tao, who was on the same stage as him. With the enemy also bolstered by the great array, Gussa had no chance of directing his focus towards Jiang Chengxuan. Instead, after Jiang Chengxuan had dealt with the two deep-sea nomad cultivators, he moved directly to the area Hong Mei was responsible for. At that time, Hong Mei, with the help of the array's power, was entangled with two demons at the Dharma form stage. It seemed that Hong Mei was also managing well on her end. However, with Jiang Chengxuan choosing to join her, his goal was naturally not just to defend. Ding, ding, ding. Just like before, the bell sounds that existed only at the primordial spirit level suddenly rang in the ears of the two demon cultivators. The two demon cultivators clearly knew what had happened to their companions. Therefore, this time, they were much more vigilant. Unfortunately, Jiang Chengxuan's illusionary heaven bells effects were inescapable. Even though they were on high alert, they were still influenced by this primordial spirit attack method. The difference was that they were not completely enchanted by the illusionary heaven bell like the deep-sea nomad cultivators were before. Still, being so significantly distracted during combat against an opponent of the same stage immediately put them at a disadvantage. Hong Mei seized this opportunity. Suddenly, huge red ribbons appeared between heaven and earth. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In just a moment, they pierced through the defenses of the two demon cultivators, wrapping around their colossal bodies. At the same time, terrifying sword chi rippled in the void. This was the power of the Heavenly Edge Immortal City's Taiji sword array. Accompanied by piercing howls, the Dharma form of the two demon cultivators were punctured by the endless sword chi like paper, dissipating into countless points of light. Arg! At the same time, the two demon cultivators screamed in agony. Their bodies were covered in blood and torn apart by an overwhelmingly strong force. The sea surface churned violently as two massive figures recondensed their forms. They looked towards Heavenly Edge Immortal City, their eyes filled with fear. They had narrowly avoided being completely annihilated like the two deep-sea nomad cultivators. If not for using their life-saving items at the critical moment, they might not have survived the attack. However, this meant they would no longer have their life-saving items for their once in tens of thousands years tribulation. Alas, what a pity. Hong Mei sighed regretfully. She knew how crucial life-saving items, like those used for averting tribulations, were for cultivators. They could be used not just to withstand heavenly tribulations, but also to save one's life in dire situations. If the two demon cultivators didn't have any tribulation-averting items on them, it would be very difficult for them to escape this attack. Thinking of this, Hong Mei couldn't help but turn to look at Jiang Chengxuan and smile. Junior brother Jiang, thank you so much for what you did just now. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to defeat them so quickly. Senior sister Hong Mei, there is no need for thanks. Yang Chengxuan smiled and shook his head. The reason why I was able to repel them was because you were strong enough. By the way, at this point, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but look in Wen Tao's direction. Senior sister Hong Mei, you and I have already defeated our opponents. Why don't we work together with senior brother Wen Tao to deal with the two celestial radiant stage cultivators? Okay. Hong Mei had no objections to Jiang Chengxuan's suggestion. The two of them headed towards Wen Tao's direction. As for Wen Tao, because of the array, he still had the upper hand against the two celestial radiant stage cultivators, Black Dragon Warlock and Gussa. Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei couldn't help but look at each other. In the next moment, the two of them controlled the power of the array to assist Wen Tao. In an instant, Wen Tao's attack became even more powerful. This made the Black Dragon Warlock and Gus's expressions turn even uglier. At this moment, they already knew that it was already impossible for them to occupy this Heavenly Edge Immortal City. At that moment, they couldn't help but glare at Wen Tao, Jiang Chengxuan, and the others before ordering everyone to retreat. Editor Henny Translations. Watching Black Dragon Warlock and Gus's group retreating, Wen Tao made no move to chase them but instead turned to Jiang Chengxuan and Hong Mei, showing a slight smile as he said, Junior brother Jiang, junior sister Hong Mei, you both played pivotal roles in this incident. Especially you, junior brother Jiang. He paused, his gaze shifting to Jiang Chengxuan. To have consecutively eliminated two void-returning cultivators from the deep-sea nomads. I will make sure to report your contributions accurately to our sect. Truth be told, Wen Tao was somewhat surprised by Jiang Chengxuan's performance. If his memory served him right, it hadn't been long since Jiang Chengxuan had advanced to void returning. It was merely a few hundred years, which, for cultivators whose lifespan spanned tens of thousands of years, was relatively short. Yet Jiang Chengxuan had shown the strength of a top-tier Dharma form stage cultivator, perhaps even stronger. This was quite astonishing. It's no wonder he was valued by Qin Shenwu and taken as a direct disciple. Indeed, he had something extraordinary about him. After handling some follow-up issues, the trio returned to Heavenly Edge Immortal City's main hall for a debriefing. After they reviewed and analyzed the incident this time, the three of them left. Decades passed without further incursions from the deep-sea nomads or demons into Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Despite the calm, Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao did not let their guard down, fully aware that their adversaries were unlikely to have given up so easily, especially since they had more or less figured out the defensive power on their side. Perhaps the scale and strength of the next attack would far exceed the previous. 1. Fast forward 150 years, and Heavenly Edge Immortal City remained tranquil. Yet Jiang Chengxuan, Hong Mei, and Wen Tao felt an unusual sense of unease, suspecting that the deep-sea nomads and demons had not abandoned their intentions to attack the city. Their lack of action suggested they were waiting for an opportune moment. Inside a luxurious palace deep in the sea, a towering figure, standing dozens of feet tall with a gemstone mark on his forehead, looked at the assembly of cultivators before him and spoke indifferently. So, is there still no message from the eldars? Gussa, with blue scales on his face, bowed and responded. Lord Boyuan, we have just received a message from the eldars. They will soon join us. This time, they are led by Eldarian Sovereign Shadowless. Eldarian Sovereign Shadowless. Upon hearing this name, the tall man who had appeared casual suddenly sat up straight, his demeanor turning serious. If Brother Shadowless himself is leading the team, then our attack on Heavenly Edge Immortal City should be foolproof. He then turned to another man with a fishtail. Como, immediately gather our people and have them prepare. And Gussa, he looked at Gusser again. Inform Black Dragon Warlock and the others to be ready as well. For this attack on Heavenly Edge Immortal City, failure is not an option. Yes, Lord Boyuan. Gussa and the man named Como both bowed in agreement. Some time later, many formidable figures appeared within the territory of the deep-sea nomads, with Boyuan stepping forward to greet them. He looked at a man whose face could not be seen clearly in the crowd and said, "Brother Shadowless, I didn't expect to see you again. With the Eldars, our deep-sea nomads, and the demons joining forces, we will surely teach the humans a harsh lesson." The man with an indistinct face chuckled in response. "That will depend on Brother Boyuan's methods. The Eldars are here to support the deep-sea nomads and demons. Additionally, unless absolutely necessary, Elders will not appear on the front lines." Upon hearing Eldarian Sovereign Shadowless's words, Boyuan, Black Dragon Warlock, and the others couldn't help but curse in their hearts. The Eldars always kept a backup plan for themselves. Little did they know that once the three of them joined forces this time, if they failed, did the Eldars really think that they could stay out of this? However, no one would say such words out loud. Soon, the three tribes finalized their attack plans, with the deep-sea nomads and demons taking charge of the main battlefield, while the Eldars positioned themselves for a surprise attack on Heavenly Edge Immortal City from the rear or flanks. In Heavenly Edge Immortal City, Hong Mei, who was currently responsible for guarding the city, suddenly felt an inexplicable turmoil in her heart. This prompted her to halt her cultivation immediately and look outside Heavenly Edge Immortal City. At their level of cultivation, any slight emotional fluctuation usually had a reason behind it, especially such an unfounded sense of unease. It indicated that something very important was about to happen. With this in mind, Hong Mei hesitated for a moment before sending a message to Jiang Chengxuan and Wen Tao. In no time, both, who had been cultivating in their respective cave abodes, appeared by her side. "What's the matter, junior sister Hong Mei?" Wen Tao immediately looked at her. Hearing his question, Jiang Chengxuan also turned his attention to Hong Mei. After a brief moment of thought, Hong Mei shared her concerns. "Senior brother Wen Tao, junior brother Jiang, do you feel that something is wrong? Or a sense of unrest?" Unrest. Upon hearing this, both men's expressions became solemn, especially Jiang Chengxuan. The moment he heard Hong Mei's words, his heart skipped a beat without reason, changing his expression instantly. He felt a looming crisis approaching Heavenly Edge Immortal City. Wen Tao also seemed to have noticed something, his expression turning grave. Together with Jiang Chengxuan, they directed their gaze outside Heavenly Edge Immortal City, extending their divine senses across thousands of miles. However, they found nothing, which didn't reassure them but instead heightened their vigilance. Wen Tao spoke in a deep voice, "Junior sister Hong Mei, your feelings are not unfounded. There indeed seems to be a hidden danger lurking near our city. It could potentially pose a lethal threat to us.